Chapter 1009. His white robes fluttered in the wind while his black flames burned fiercely. After killing the fire spirit and devouring its fire essence, Ning Fan's devil flame had crossed the last line and completely broke through to the 12 hidden level. At this moment, his body was surrounded by devil flames as he stood in the sky. The pressure of the flames was even stronger because of the yin-yang phoenix, causing the temperature of the grassland to rise abruptly. It even made the flames in the bodies of all the cultivators of Debay tremble. They looked at the figure in the sky with fear. It was as if it was not a human but an emperor that walked out from the flames. Everyone in the Debay clan was a pill refinement master. Naturally, all of them were fire cultivators. However, it was rare for their flames to reach the 9 hidden level and above. Those who reached the 12 hidden level were even rarer. Even if there were, they would usually be the result of bitter cultivation of those ancient existences. Besides, the might of those people's 12 hidden level was rarely as powerful as Ning Fan's. As a result, the exclamations on the grassland became louder and louder. It was because of Ning Fan breaking out of the seal and also because of the might of the devil flames. I'm finally free. Looking at the time, there should be only a little more than 5 hours left before the end of the combat test. Ning Fan withdrew his devil flames. His body flashed and appeared on the grassland as if he had teleported. He did not participate in the battle immediately but landed next to Xin Yu-chun, who was not far away. Xin Yu-chun looked at Ning Fan excitedly. His eyes were filled with passion. He was still immersed in the shock of Ning Fan breaking out of the seal. Ning Fan looked at Xin Yu-chun's badly mutilated hands and sighed softly. Even though he had just broken out of the seal, the mountain was already useless to him after he killed the firebird. It could not trap his all-pervasive spirit sense to see what was happening in the outside world. This Xin Yu-chun actually wanted to dig the mountain to save someone. With his cultivation base and strength, this action was almost stupid. However, it was done with good intentions and out of sincerity. He did not even ask for anything in return. According to Ning Fan's understanding, this Xin Yu-chun was not a good person in nature. Instead, he was a tyrant of the southern border. The reason why he was willing to do this was because he respected Ning Fan from the bottom of his heart. If it was someone else who was trapped, he would certainly watch coldly from the side. The combat test and the possibility of offending an immortal emperor were also thrown to the back of his mind. With his limited intelligence, he did not even bother to think about everything and just acted to save the person. Ning Fan did not intend to take him as a disciple. However, today he was a little impressed. Even though Xin Yu-chun's mind wasn't complete, there was a stubbornness in his bones. Daring to use his flesh and blood to shake the volcano created by an immortal emperor, such courage was rarely seen. It wasn't that he wasn't afraid at all. It was just that the person he wanted to save was trapped in the volcano. Therefore, he had to dig the mountain open no matter what. Even if there was no hope, he would, and the mountain would be. Even if the entire world laughed at him, even if he became the enemy of all worlds, even if the world was destroyed, he would never change his heart. What surprised Ning Fan even more was that when this young man roared at the sky, it actually gave him a kind of feeling, causing the bottleneck of his mid-shedding void realm and demon realm cultivation base to loosen a little. He even had a feeling that his heart tribulation was about to descend. This young man's mind is incomplete. However, because of that, he is purer and closer to the Tao. Even though he did not really save Ning Fan appreciated his kindness. Fan Yang Yang Emis. Fan Fan. Yang Yang Energy, Spirit Yang. Mountain. Yang 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 Fan. Yang Yang Fan. With a flip of his hand, Ning Fan took out a pill bottle and gave it to Xin Yu-chun. Then he walked past him. Xin Yu-chun was so moved that his eyes were brimming with tears. He had actually received a reward from his master. That expression was too cold and callous. That tone was too domineering. That gesture, that temperament, as expected of his master, this was not something he could imitate in a day and a night. Let's see what master has rewarded us with. Xin Yu-chun opened the bottle and checked it with his divine sense. He immediately gasped. It was a 9-revolution golden pill. Furthermore, it was an elixir pill that he had never seen before. It was most likely an elixir pill from the eastern heavens. Looking at its medicinal effects, it seemed to be used for healing injuries. It was just that the grade of this medicinal pill was a bit too high. One had to know that even though he was the young clan lord of the evil goat tribe, if he wanted to use a 9 revolutions golden pill, he would need the unanimous consent of all the elders. He would also need to go through 3 rounds of examination and 3 rounds of reconsideration. This was because the 9 revolutions golden pill was a precious treasure to any of the southern border tribes, and it could not be used easily. However, Ning Fan just casually gave him one. Master is really generous. Congratulations on breaking free, Senior. Duo Lan is willing to use my connections in the Middle State to investigate the person who plotted against Senior. I feel that this matter was not done by the cultivators of the Stone Flame tribe. Instead, it was some old monsters who imitated the abilities of the Stone Flame tribe. Duo Lan walked towards him and secretly transmitted her voice to him. She did not dare to reveal her identity as a soul-locking slave in front of outsiders. Therefore, her facial expression was very cold, but her tone was extremely humble and respectful. There's no need for that. I can roughly guess who the mastermind is. During the few days that I wasn't around, the Tamu tribe only has one person left. Ning Fan frowned slightly and spread his spirit sense towards the grassland where the participants of the Tamu tribe were. In that direction, only Tamu Dujin was left, who was struggling to hold on. Tagori and the others were looking at his direction with pleasant surprise. During the few days that Senior wasn't around, many tribes bullied the Tamu tribe. Unfortunately, Duo Lan is an outsider and not a participant. Thus, I can't intervene in this matter. Duo Lan still wanted to talk about what happened to the Tamu tribe. However, Ning Fan did not even have the time to listen to her carefully. With a flash, he flew towards the grassland where the Tamu tribe was located. Duo Lan curled her lips and swallowed all the words that she wanted to say. She had no choice but to fly together with Ning Fan. However, before they entered the area of the combat test, they were stopped by the corpse devil old man. You are not a participant, so you cannot enter this place. Duo Lan could only stop and watch the combat examination from afar. There are only 10 hours left. I wonder if Senior's arrival will be able to lead Tamu to obtain a good result. It would be great if we can obtain the first place in the southern border, Tamu martial test area. Ning Fan whizzed through the air like a ray of light. His aura force soared to the sky. Sa Teng, whose magic power was nearing exhaustion, had already given up all hope under the pursuit of the Fire Soul. At this moment, seeing his savior arrive, he was overjoyed and shouted, "Senior Ning, save me." As soon as the half-step void-shedding Fire Soul saw Ning Fan's arrival, it immediately shifted its killing intent and stopped chasing after Sa Teng. From Ning Fan's body, the Fire Soul sensed an extremely delicious flame chi. That chi was tempting him and driving his killing instinct. I must kill him. I must devour his flames. I must kill him. Roar. The Fire Soul's roar was filled with killing intent. It could actually trigger a trace of change in the Tao of Fire. One should know that to any cultivator who had yet to enter the Eternal Era, such an action was extremely heaven-defying. The fact that the Fire Soul could achieve such a feat with its half-step void-shedding Fire Soul's cultivation base made it even more extraordinary, even if it was just an extremely weak trace. However, a half-step void-shedding Fire Soul was still just a half-step void-shedding Fire Soul. It could not cause any great waves, let alone kill Ning Fan. Ning Fan did not even give the Fire Soul a chance to attack. As his devil flames spread out, his entire being dashed forward like a fiery shadow. All of a sudden, he flew across the grassland and passed by the Fire Soul. At the moment when they crossed each other, the Fire Soul was directly burned into ashes. When the Peak Realm Du Zhen who was watching from nearby saw this scene, all of them were shocked. One should know that the Fire Soul was a spirit that was born from fire. Its resistance towards fire attacks was naturally extremely high. However, in front of Ning Fan's 12 Adoration True Fire, it still ended up being killed instantly. What a terrifying devil flame. The changes in the law that it contained were even beyond the comprehension of Du Zhen. Thank you for saving me, senior. Sa Teng's eyes were burning with passion. Even though there was not much time left for the combat test, as long as Ning Fan could make it in time, the Tower Wood tribe still had a chance to turn the tables. You should retreat and recuperate. I alone am enough for the combat test of the Tower Wood tribe this time. As soon as Ning Fan said those words, Sa Teng, who had been severely exhausted, felt as if he had just been pardoned. He handed all of his fire-summoning talismans to Ning Fan and hurriedly withdrew from the combat test. None of the people of the Tower Wood tribe criticized Sa Teng for withdrawing from the combat test because Ning Fan was still here. Everyone was in high spirits. Their fighting spirit was high. They deeply believed that as long as Ning Fan was here, it would be enough. Ning Fan's devil might was extremely terrifying. Especially at this moment, it carried a hint of anger. He even gave off an aura that kept strangers away from him. However, the feeling he gave his companions was that he was very reliable. After all, he was an immortal venerate whose cultivation base had been sealed. Ning Fan suddenly saw a fiery red crystal core among the ashes of the fallen fire soul. He raised his hand and sucked it into his palm. According to Ning Fan's understanding of the combat test, this seemed to be a unique fire crystal produced by hunting fire souls. Before he had the time to take a closer look, 10 Peak Crossing Truth Realm cultivators landed at the same time. They surrounded Ning Fan and scolded him. How did you escape from the volcano? Could it be that you have destroyed the punishment ring? As cultivators of the Tower Wood tribe, we have the right to examine your punishment ring. If it is true, you are going to face a great calamity. You did not participate in the competition on time. Now that you have broken the seal, I'm afraid you have already lost the qualification to participate. Why are you still not leaving? What are you waiting for? The last person of the Tower Wood has already withdrawn from the competition. This dead half-step void-rending fire soul should not be counted in the result of the Tower Wood tribe. The final result of the Tower Wood tribe is still 1 point. If it was Dong Tian Duzhen, he would not dare to shout at the dignified Rain Lord like this. However, this was the Tower Wood tribe. The cultivators here were born with the pride of their tribe. Even when facing Ning Fan, they still had a superior attitude. The coldness in Ning Fan's eyes became even more intense. Are they all here to suppress the Tower Wood tribe? Firstly, as far as I know, participating in the competition halfway will not disqualify you. This has happened before in the history of the southern border. Ning Fan said expressionlessly. As soon as his words fell, a few people's expressions changed slightly. It seemed like they did not expect Ning Fan to have such a thorough understanding of the minor competition in the southern border. Their previous deceit made them feel embarrassed. Secondly, my punishment ring is still here. In this way, it is not considered as violating the rules of the Tower Wood tribe. Ning Fan's primordial spirit left his body. The damaged ring was still there, which was enough to prove that Ning Fan did not lie. Then his primordial spirit returned to its original position. Some cultivators were inwardly shocked. Ning Fan really rushed out of the volcano that even the Broken Thoughts sacred envoy could not get out of with his restricted cultivation base. Thirdly, as far as I know, there is another rule in the combat test. You are allowed to enter the combat testing area of other tribes to snatch and kill the fire souls. You are not allowed to hurt others in the combat test. However, if you step into the combat testing area of other tribes and try to snatch the fire souls, you will only have yourself to blame if you get attacked. You are all trying to snatch the fire souls in my Tower Wood combat testing area. In this case, even if I attack you, it won't be against the rules of the combat test, right? As soon as he said that, the Peak Truth Crossing Realm cultivators who had snatched the fire souls of the Tower Wood had a drastic change in expression. They turned around and wanted to run out of the combat testing area. Listening to what he said, he actually wanted to attack the various tribes of the southern border as an external cultivator. This person is really audacious. These people were not slow in running. Unfortunately, they could not run away. Ning Fan's figure flashed and appeared behind each of the Peak Truth Crossing Realm cultivators like a ghost. With a raise of his hand, he sent each of them flying away while coughing out blood. All of them were thrown out of the combat testing area of the tower wood like rubbish. Killing was not allowed in the combat test. Thus, Ning Fan only severely injured these people who bullied the tower wood. Even so, it still caused the people of the tower wood to cheer. They finally got rid of the resentment in their hearts. Daring to snatch the fire souls of the tower wood tribe and stepping on the tower wood tribe to curry favor with Emperor Luo Tua, this was the consequence. How dare you? How dare a mere external cultivator injure the cultivators of my white ghost tribe? The white ghost sorcerer cultivator who was hunting the fire souls in the combat testing area of the headquarters was enraged. How ruthless! The cultivators who were injured by this person will definitely not be able to recover without resting for 100 years. I'm afraid that if it wasn't for the rules, this person would even dare to kill them. There were also some tribes who were fearful of Ning Fan. When the Peak Truth Crossing Realm cultivator of the evil goat tribe saw Ning Fan rushing towards him, he was so scared that his soul almost left his body. He was afraid that he would be thrown out of the combat testing area along with Ning Fan. His mouth was agape and he wanted to explain something anxiously. To his surprise, Ning Fan did not attack him. Instead, he just raised his hand and stirred up a gust of wind, gently sending him out of the combat testing area of the tower wood. I've seen some of the things you did to help the tower wood. I won't hurt you. The young clan leader of your tribe isn't here. Quickly go and help your tribe to hunt the fire souls and improve your results. Ning Fan transmitted his voice to that person. The Peak Truth Crossing Realm cultivator of the evil goat tribe heaved a sigh of relief and immediately returned to the combat testing area of the evil goat tribe to help the cultivators of the headquarters to hunt the fire souls. Ning Fan had severely injured more than 10 Peak Truth Crossing Realm cultivators in just a single exchange. Not only did it shock some people, it also caused some of them to be angry and curse at him. Ning Fan did not care about those curses at all. He scanned the 35 combat testing areas with his spirit sense and came up with a plan. The total score of the tower wood tribe was originally only 1 point. After he killed a half-step void abandoning fire soul, his score rose to 11 points. Currently, this score was still at the bottom. Even the True Khan tribe, which was second from the bottom, also had 44 points and had successfully killed 4 True Crossing Realm fire souls. Most of the tribes had scored more than 500 points. As for those large tribes, basically none of them had less than 1,000 points. Currently, the Wind Summoning tribe was ranked first with a total score of more than 9,000 points. The Sea Spirit tribe was ranked second with a total score of almost 7,000 points. The Evil Goat tribe was ranked 7th with a total score of 1,500 points. Compared to the score of the Evil Goat tribe in previous years, it was much lesser. The reason for this was because of the sudden withdrawal of their young clan leader, Xinyu Chun. If I want to get the first place in the southern border, just the fire summoning talisman in my hand is definitely not enough. In that case, I will first rob the fire souls of the other tribes to increase my score. Ning Fan did not rush to use the fire summoning talisman of the headquarters. Instead, he rushed towards the combat testing areas of the southern border. The poor True Khan tribe. 20 participants were besieging 5 True Crossing Realm fire souls. Before they could react, a pitch-black flame flashed past them. Almost in an instant, the 5 True Crossing Realm fire souls were burnt to ashes. The Tower Wood tribe got 61 points. At the same time, Ning Fan obtained another 5 fire crystals. Why? We didn't rob the Tower Wood tribe's fire souls. Why do you want to rob us? One of the shamans of the True Khan tribe shouted angrily. So what? What can you do about it? Ning Fan glared at the shaman mercilessly. That shaman was so frightened that he did not dare to speak anymore. Cold sweat was dripping down his forehead. Even though he knew that killing was not allowed in this combat test, after the True Khan tribe, Ning Fan robbed the fire souls of the other tribes that they were hunting one after another. The first tribes that were robbed were just those small tribes that did not have Shikong tribe's protection. Then, Ning Fan also visited those tribes that had Shikong tribe's protection. The Corpse Shi tribe had 3 early Shikong tribes protection. They were working together to hunt 3 Shikong tribes' fire souls. Suddenly, they saw a ray of flame coming towards them. The 3 Shikong tribe's members were enraged. What a bold external cultivator! You want to rob the fire souls of our corpse Shi tribe? It won't be that easy. The 3 Shikong tribe's members soared into the sky at the same time and attacked Ningfan. As for the 3 Shikong tribe's fire souls, they were temporarily sealed by the cultivators of the corpse Shi tribe. According to the rules of the combat test, Ningfan was not allowed to take the initiative to hurt the other tribe's fire souls. However, if the other party retaliates first, he can also retaliate. Get lost. Ningfan opened his mouth and spat out a sea of flames, engulfing the 3 Shikong tribe's members who had soared into the sky. Then, 3 miserable shrieks were heard. After that, 3 primordial spirits that were terrified escaped from the devil flames. Their physical bodies had already been burnt to ashes. This was also because Ningfan had shown them mercy. Otherwise, it would not be difficult for him to kill 3 of them instantly. As senior, please spare our lives. The 3 Shikong tribe's members were so frightened that they immediately begged for mercy. They were afraid that Ningfan would be so audacious as to ignore the rules of this place and kill them. Ningfan did not even look at the 3 Shikong tribe's members. He raised his hand and killed the 3 Shikong tribe's fire souls that they had summoned. Then he went to the next combat test area. The combat test area of the Black Mountain tribe. The 2 mid-Shikong tribe's members of the Black Mountain tribe licked their lips. They had already made up their minds to severely injure Ningfan. Both of them suddenly soared into the sky and cast an inescapable net at Ningfan. However, they were all burned to ashes by Ningfan's devil flames even though their physical bodies were also destroyed by him. At the same time, the 2 Shikong tribe's fire souls that were summoned by the Black Mountain tribe were also destroyed. The combat test area of the White Ghost tribe. The White Ghost tribe had a total of 7 Shikong tribe's members. The strongest one among them was the late Shikong tribe sorcerer. The moment Ningfan stepped into the combat test area of the White Ghost tribe, the sorcerer immediately struck out a lightning palm towards the grassland. A grand formation that had been prepared for a long time immediately began to operate. My White Ghost tribe is proficient in the Tao of formations. Even an early thought fragmentation realm cultivator who enters this yin and yang life and death formation will be severely injured. Today, I will use my blood essence to activate the formation. I will definitely injure you severely in this formation. The sorcerer's face was filled with arrogance. He did not think that Ningfan, who was trapped in this formation, could do anything. He spat out 7 mouthfuls of blood essence at the formation. The consumption of his blood essence was definitely not small. The other 6 Shikong tribe's members also did the same. Instantly, the power of the grand formation increased by more than 1-fold. This is just a mere formation. It's not enough to trap me. Ningfan could even easily break Emperor Luo Tuo's formation in the mountain. Why would he be afraid of the formation set up by a group of Shikong tribe's members? He did not even use the force character. Instead, he directly dashed forward with his physical body and forcefully destroyed the grand formation. All of the 7 Shikong tribe's members, including the sorcerers, coughed out blood and retreated frantically. Their faces were filled with shock. This man's physical body is really terrifying. Even if his cultivation base is sealed, he can still defeat an early thought fragmentation realm cultivator with just his physical body. How would they still dare to stop Ningfan? They could only watch Ningfan destroy the fire soul that was summoned by the headquarters. The Wind Summoning Division was now under great pressure. The moment Ningfan stepped into the Wind Summoning Division, Nanjilong's eyes turned ruthless. He said coldly to the 9 Shikong tribe's members behind him, "Hurry up and help me fuse my soul." The medicine soul power of the 9 Shikong tribe's members instantly went into Nanjilong's body. Nanjilong, who was already at the peak Shikong tribe's cultivation base, immediately skyrocketed. He directly broke through the bottleneck of the thought fragmentation realm and reached the early thought fragmentation realm. You have the physical body of the thought fragmentation realm, but I also have the combat power of the thought fragmentation realm. How can I let a mere external cultivator like you take away the fire soul of my wind summoning division? Heavenly Devil Breaking Finger. Nan Jilong suddenly raised the index finger of his right hand and chanted an incantation. Immediately, 12 gigantic golden Buddha statues appeared behind him. His index finger was gradually dyed with a layer of golden light. That golden light was very faint, but it was constantly emitting a terrifying Buddha's might. That Buddha's might seemed to be able to suppress the ancient devil bloodline in Ning Fan's body. Ning Fan instantly realized that this was a Buddha clan's devil-breaking divine ability. Nan Jilong shouted loudly and pressed his finger with all his might. A faint golden 1,000 zhang finger imprint seemed to have directly pressed against the vast sky within 10,000 li, or directly into Ning Fan's eyes. Relying on the strength of his physical body, Ning Fan directly threw a punch and shattered the 1,000 zhang finger imprint. However, a few breaths later, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. What a strange divine ability! He had clearly blocked the 1,000 zhang finger imprint, but he was still injured. From the looks of it, the finger imprint that fell into his eyes also had destructive power. What it damaged was the Tao heart of a devil cultivator. What a strange divine ability of the Buddha clan. It can actually directly attack one's Tao heart. It was Ning Fan's first time seeing such a divine ability of the Buddha clan. Of course, he suffered a small loss. However, now that he was prepared, it would be very difficult for this type of divine ability to work on him again. As the raging flames around his body burned, even the minor injury was healed in the process of nirvana. Seeing that Ning Fan was only slightly injured and his injuries healed in an instant, Nan Jilong was slightly surprised. One should know that this was a divine ability that he had learned from the heavenly capital peak of the middle state after paying a huge price. It was also his strongest technique. In the past, when he used it, it was almost always successful. Even a mid-thought fragmentation realm cultivator would most likely be severely injured by it. Of course, there was a prerequisite for this technique. The opponent must be a cultivator of the Devil Tao. Only then could the devil-breaking finger unleash its full power. Ning Fan was undoubtedly a cultivator of the Devil Tao. It was obvious from his chi. However, he still managed to withstand the heavenly capital devil-breaking finger head-on. If you don't have any other trump cards, don't blame me for being merciless. Ning Fan's speed was unimaginably fast. Relying on the strength of his physical body, he directly collided with Nan Jilong and sent him flying away while coughing out blood. He did not even have the time to dodge the attack. The soul fusion technique required an extremely precise spirit sense to maintain. As Nan Jilong was injured, he almost fainted. Naturally, he could not maintain the technique and his chi quickly weakened. The other members of the Wind Summoning Clan wanted to stop Ning Fan again. However, they were all sent flying away by Ning Fan one after another. In the end, all the fire souls that the Wind Summoning Clan summoned were also killed by Ning Fan. Damn it! Damn it! Nan Jilong was extremely unwilling to accept this outcome. However, he was helpless at the same time. The martial test was originally a place to test one's strength. In the past, the Wind Summoning Clan had always been the ones who snatched the fire souls of other clans. Today, due to the cycle of karma, it was the Wind Summoning Clan's turn to be unlucky. However, in this case, they would no longer be able to suppress the score of the Towerwood clan. In that case, they would not be able to please Great Emperor Lu Tua. The reason why Ning Fan did not go to the Evil Goat clan was naturally because of Xin Yuchun. It made the cultivators of the Evil Goat clan feel that it would be beneficial for their young clan leader to befriend senior Ning Fan for the first time. As for the Sea Soul clan, it was the last clan that Ning Fan went to snatch. There were many members of the Sea Soul clan. However, when Ning Fan arrived, Ming Hai Wu stopped the others from attacking him and stood in front of Ning Fan alone. If you can defeat me, I will hand over all the fire souls of my clan to you to kill. If you can't do it, please leave my Sea Soul clan. This person actually wanted to stop Ning Fan with his own strength. The Sea Soul clan was one of the few clans that did not oppress the Towerwood clan. Therefore, Ning Fan was not as ruthless to them as he was to the other clans. He nodded and agreed to Ming Hai Wu's challenge. Ming Hai Wu's expression became unprecedentedly solemn. After some hesitation, he finally used his strongest ability that had yet to be perfected to fight Ning Fan. It was a type of Dao Sense technique. It was an ability that only thought-breaking realm cultivators could perfect. If this technique is perfected, it would be the day when Ming Hai Wu officially steps into the thought-breaking realm. Extreme Fire Sense. As soon as Ming Hai Wu's Dao Sense technique was activated, the area where the two of them fought was filled with raging winds and scorching waves. This person could move the wind and clouds with just a single thought. Dao Sense technique, huh? Ning Fan did not directly defeat Ming Hai Wu with his strong physical body. Instead, he slowly raised his finger and pointed at the ground. His mind was recalling the massacre and loneliness on the path of cultivation. It was like the fallen leaves of the west wind falling into his heart. However, he had no regrets. Last night, the west wind had withered the green trees. Ming Hai Wu was instantly shocked. At the moment when Ning Fan raised his finger, the violent wind that he summoned with his Dao Sense was instantly taken over by Ning Fan. Then, it turned into a gentle west wind and leaves fell from the sky. Those leaves were silent, but they gave Ming Hai an unprecedented sense of crisis. He almost activated his Dao Sense and crazily charged towards those leaves. He wanted to use his extreme fire sense to burn the falling leaves that filled the sky. Fallen leaves belonged to the wood element. Wood gave birth to fire. Between the two elements, Ming Hai Wu thought that his Dao Sense should be able to suppress Ning Fan's Dao Sense. However, the result was that Ming Hai Wu's extreme fire sense was easily defeated by Ning Fan's Dao Sense. Under the Dao Sense of the west wind, it slowly turned into ashes. In terms of the 5 elements, the extreme fire sense should not be defeated by Ning Fan's Dao Sense. In terms of the degree of perfection of Dao Sense, Ming Hai Wu had a strange feeling. He always felt that Ning Fan's Dao Sense was not perfect. It was even not as perfect as many early thought fragmentation realm cultivators. Could it be that Ning Fan's cultivation base was lower than the thought fragmentation realm? That was why his Dao Sense was not perfect? As soon as this thought emerged, Ming Hai Wu rejected it. Ning Fan had already been proven to be an immortal venerable in the ancient times. Naturally, it was impossible for his cultivation base to be lower than the thought fragmentation realm. In that case, Ming Hai Wu could only assume that Ning Fan had purposely suppressed the strength of his Dao Sense to have a fair fight with him. He, Ming Hai Wu, was convinced that he had lost to such a magnanimous old monster. Senior, please enlighten me on why my extreme fire sense would lose to your Dao Sense of the west wind. Ming Hai Wu asked humbly. Ning Fan was not a thought fragmentation realm old monster. His understanding of Dao Sense was not even as good as Ming Hai Wu, who was at the half-step thought fragmentation realm. However, he was a second heaven realm cultivator. He could see many questions that Ming Hai Wu did not understand. Thus, it was not difficult for him to answer this question. Different depths. As soon as Ning Fan finished speaking, he killed the fire souls summoned by the Sea Soul Division. Ming Hai Wu heaved a long sigh. It was as if he had obtained great benefits from Ning Fan's short explanation. He gave an order to his subordinates. Immediately, the Sea Soul Division summoned some other Du Zhen and Renkong fire souls for Ning Fan to kill and obtain points. Should I kill the thought fragmentation fire soul? Ming Hai Wu suddenly asked. Ning Fan did not answer immediately. From the bottom of his heart, he did not want to kill the thought fragmentation fire soul. After all, the risk of summoning the thought fragmentation fire soul was too great. If he summons a half-step thought fragmentation fire soul that was at the half-step eternal ancient realm, it would certainly be a tough battle. Of course, if Ning Fan was willing to use some of his hidden trump cards in front of the cultivators of the southern border, he could still kill the thought fragmentation fire soul. However, the gains would not make up for the losses. Some things would certainly be exposed to them. Ning Fan calculated the points. As he continued to snatch the fire souls, the total points of the Tower Wood Division had risen to 3,000 points. 3,000 points was enough to make any cultivator of the Tower Wood Division ecstatic. It had exceeded their expectations. It was also enough to make anyone who looked down on the Tower Wood Division and Ning Fan shut their mouths. Those cultivators who claimed that the Tower Wood Division would not surpass 1,000 points all shut their mouths at this moment. Those tribes who claimed to be ahead of the Tower Wood Division by how much points they had received a huge blow. However, Ning Fan was not satisfied with just 3,000 points. The Wind Summoning Division, which was ranked first, had already obtained 9,000 points. If he wanted to become the first in the southern border, he must obtain a score that surpassed the Wind Summoning Division. However, the troublesome thing was that those tribes whose fire souls were snatched by Ning Fan suddenly stopped all of their actions in a tacit manner. They no longer summoned the fire souls to hunt them. Some of them were too weak to hunt the fire souls because their members were severely injured. Some of them had other intentions and were unwilling to continue summoning the fire souls in case Ning Fan snatched the fire souls from them. In other words, the Sea Spirit Division was more honest and trustworthy. They took the initiative to summon the fire souls for Ning Fan to snatch. According to the rules, if the other party does not take the initiative to summon the fire souls, Ning Fan was not allowed to directly snatch their fire summoning talismans. If I want to surpass the Wind Summoning Division score, it won't be enough even if I use up all the remaining low-grade and mid-grade fire summoning talismans of the Tower Wood Division. If that's the case, I'll have to hunt the Broken Thought Fire Soul sooner or later. Thinking of this, Ning Fan answered Ming Hai Wu. Summon one of the Broken Thought Fire Souls of your division. After I kill one, I'll summon the second one. All right. It's also a great fortune for me to be able to witness Senior's battle against a real Broken Thought Fire Soul. Ming Hai Wu seemed to not care about the results of the combat test at all. At this moment, he only wanted to see Ning Fan hunt the Broken Thought Fire Soul. Immediately, he ordered the cultivators of his division to use the high-grade fire summoning talisman. However, a problem suddenly appeared. After using the high-grade fire summoning talisman, there was no effect at all. No Broken Thought Fire Soul appeared. Strange. Could it be that there's a problem with this high-grade fire summoning talisman? Otherwise, why couldn't I summon the Broken Thought Fire Soul? Ming Hai Wu was greatly surprised. He then tried to use the other high-grade fire summoning talismans and found out that all of them had problems. In the entire minor competition of the southern border, no one was foolish enough to summon the Broken Thought Fire Soul. Thus, no one had tried to summon the Broken Thought Fire Soul before. It was also because of this that no one noticed the problem with the talisman before Ning Fan decided to summon the Broken Thought Fire Soul. Ning Fan tried to use the high-grade fire summoning talisman of the Tower Wood Division and found out that there was no effect at all. However, the low-grade and mid-grade fire summoning talismans were still usable. Helplessly, Ning Fan could only give up on hunting the Broken Thought Fire Soul. Since the other tribes did not continue to summon the Dujin Void Fire Soul, he had no choice but to use all the fire summoning talismans of the Tower Wood Division first. The remaining 38 low-grade fire summoning talismans and 20 mid-grade fire summoning talismans were all used up by Ning Fan. The score of the Tower Wood Division had also exceeded 6,000. 6,000 points was still incomparable to the 9,000 points of the Tower Wood Division. As time passed, the other tribes still did not have the intention to summon the Broken Thought Fire Soul. It was as if they would rather end the combat test with this result than to summon the Broken Thought Fire Soul. It's our fault that we can't make the Tower Wood Division rank last. But no matter what, we must not let the Tower Wood Division seize the first place. Our strength is not as good as that external cultivator with the surname Ning. If we summon the Broken Thought Fire Soul, it will certainly be snatched away by him before we can kill it. In that case, it's better for us not to summon it at all. That way, the Tower Wood Division will have no hope of seizing the first place at all. At least we can consider it as us doing our part for great Emperor Lu Tua. These were the true thoughts of countless tribes. Even the cultivators who were not lacking in intelligence could see through their thoughts. How could Ning Fan not see through them? This was a passive method to suppress the Tower Wood Division. However, it was extremely effective. After all, if those tribes do not summon the Broken Thought Fire Soul on their own, Ning Fan would not be able to snatch it even if he wanted to. He would not be able to increase his score any further. If it really doesn't work, I'll just use an illusion technique on the cultivators of those tribes and force them to summon the broken thought fire soul on their own. Just as Ningfan was muttering to himself, the grassland suddenly trembled irregularly. Sometimes it was light and sometimes it was heavy. The tremors were extremely irregular. As the tremors occurred, strange changes suddenly occurred in each of the combat testing areas. In the combat testing area of the True Khan division, a ball of dark brown flames suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Then, a dark brown broken thought fire soul walked out of the flames. It emanated a mid-thought fragmentation realm cultivation base. Immediately after that, the second, third, fourth, and fifth broken thought fire soul appeared in the True Khan division one after another. Their cultivation bases ranged from the early thought fragmentation realm to the late thought fragmentation realm. As soon as the broken thought fire soul appeared, it instantly triggered a frenzied massacre in the True Khan division. Almost all of the 20 participating cultivators of the True Khan division died on the spot. One should know that the True Khan division did not even use their high-grade fire summoning talisman. The timing of the appearance of the 5 broken thought fire souls was just too strange. Not only the True Khan division, but also the other tribes' combat testing areas also had 5 broken thought fire souls. The number of broken thought fire souls was exactly the same as the number of high-grade fire summoning talismans they had. How could a group of Du Zhen and Shi Kong fight against the broken thought fire souls? Moreover, each tribe's combat testing area had 5 broken thought fire souls at the same time. Therefore, the casualties were extremely heavy. Many of the participating cultivators of the tribes were slaughtered on the spot. Only a few cultivators survived. Even so, it was still extremely shocking. The most terrifying thing was that after the broken thought fire souls killed all the participants in front of them, they started to attack the crowd. Judging from their momentum, if they killed all the cultivators here, they would flee to the entire southern border and slaughter the entire southern border. With the cultivation base of the cultivators in the southern border grassland, it was impossible for them to stop this massacre. After all, there were 175 broken thought fire souls. Even if the immortal venerables were here, facing so many broken thought fire souls would make their scalp numb and they would have to be careful. Suddenly, a sneer with the aura of broken thought fire souls entered the ears of every cultivator here. It seemed to have come from the underground of the grassland. Jie, Chu Lai, Duan, the ominous realm didn't kill you because of Sky Flame's incompetence. However, I, Shi Yen, am not an incompetent person. This time, you won't be able to escape from our hands. The Tri-Flame guards who ambushed Duolan had actually chased him all the way here. How did they get out of the ominous realm and step into Debay? Chapter 10:10. That sneer seemed to have come from the deepest part of the ground. Then, it was drowned out by the chaotic noises of the grassland. Countless cultivators of the southern border were furious. Without a doubt, the Tri-Flame guards had invaded the grassland again. The invaders must have tampered with the fire summoning talisman in advance, causing countless flame souls of broken thoughts to go berserk. This was not unprecedented. Thousands of years ago, the celestial water grassland also experienced a fire soul riot. The last time it happened was 70,000 years ago. Even further back in history, there were many similar occurrences. For the Debay tribe, every fire soul riot meant a catastrophe. The cultivators in the area were fleeing in all directions while spreading their spirit sense into the ground. Unfortunately, most of them had limited spirit sense. After reaching a certain depth, they would be blocked by the thick earth chi. It was difficult for them to go deeper. There were also some experts who relied on their powerful spirit sense to force their way into the ground. However, when they saw what was underground, they were all attacked. Their sea of consciousness was severely damaged and they coughed out blood in embarrassment. It's really the stone flame invasion. Moreover, the intruder actually brought a stone dragon with him. It's highly possible that a stone flame devil's son has come to this place. In that case, The volcano divine ability that suppressed the external cultivator with the surname Ning was really the work of the stone flame scoundrel. However, we have also checked the ground just now. We didn't find anyone hiding here. Don't send your spirit sense into the ground. The stone dragons of the stone flame lineage eat spirit sense. Even immortal venerables have to be careful when dealing with them. Ordinary triflame guards won't be able to leave the territory of the ominous domain. The intruder is definitely not an ordinary person. We must report this to the Holy Mountain as soon as possible. However, even if they report this matter to the Holy Mountain, they would still have to wait for a long time before the experts of the Holy Mountain would arrive. During this period of time, there would definitely be countless casualties in the grassland. The exclamations of a few people were quickly suppressed by the blood-curdling screams from all directions. As the flame souls of broken thoughts spread out and began their massacre, more and more people died in the hands of the flame souls of broken thoughts. The entire grassland was filled with flames and corpses. Ning Fan's brows were tightly knitted together. This sudden change had also surprised him. Relying on his powerful spirit sense, Ning Fan peeked into the depths of the ground. It was completely dark in the depths of the ground. He could not see anything clearly. Besides, there was also a bone-corroding coldness that was like the netherworld corroding one's spirit sense, making it impossible for cultivators to maintain their spirit sense underground for a long period of time. With Ning Fan's perception, he could vaguely sense that there was an incomparably gigantic and mysterious creature entrenched in the depths of that place. Its body could stretch for hundreds of li. Besides, there seemed to be a force around its body that seemed to be able to fuse with the land of this place, giving off an unusually heavy and oppressive feeling. The only unfortunate thing was that it was too dark underground, causing Ning Fan to be unable to see the appearance of this gigantic creature clearly. That gigantic creature's perception towards spirit sense was especially sharp. Even though Ning Fan's rain technique was concealed, it was still alerted. Even though it could not pinpoint the exact location of Ning Fan's spirit sense, the gigantic creature still instinctively used its abilities to attack its surroundings indiscriminately. All of a sudden, Ning Fan felt a scorching chi rushing towards his spirit sense. Then, he felt an excruciating pain as if his sea of consciousness was being burned. All of a sudden, the trace of spirit sense that he had sent into the ground was destroyed by the gigantic creature using an unknown method. The process was too fast that Ning Fan did not even have the time to withdraw his spirit sense. Fortunately, Ning Fan was very careful in his actions. The amount of spirit sense that he sent into the ground was very little. Thus, he suffered almost no damage. Compared to those cultivators of the southern border who were severely injured and coughed out blood, he was considered to be extremely lucky. Ning Fan's expression was extremely solemn. The gigantic creature that was hiding underground was no trivial matter. It actually gave him a trace of pressure. It was far stronger than the flame souls of broken thoughts that were wreaking havoc everywhere on the grassland. It was probably at least as strong as an ancient immortal venerable, or even stronger. That gigantic creature was obviously extremely strong. But why did it hide underground instead of above the grassland? Was it because it couldn't show itself? Was it unwilling to show itself? Or was there something else? From the exclamations of some of the cultivators of the southern border, they seemed to have mentioned something like 100 li stone dragon. Could it be that they were referring to the gigantic creature that was entrenched underground? There seemed to be a lot of cultivators hiding inside the gigantic creature. There were no less than 100 of them. Could these hidden cultivators be the stone flame cultivators of the 3 flame guards? Oh? Is it an external immortal venerable? According to the report of some void flame guards, they had seen an external immortal venerable in the ominous domain when they were searching for Duolon. Could it be this person? I wonder if the failure of the void flame guards is related to this person. However, this person's cultivation base is limited. If I don't destroy the punishment ring, it won't be worth mentioning at all. Even if I destroy the punishment ring and restore my full cultivation base, there's nothing to worry about. After all, I've brought 100 li stone dragon with me this time. If an ancient immortal venerable comes, I'll kill him without hesitation. In the depths of the ground, There was a cultivator with a sturdy figure standing in the mouth of the gigantic creature. He spoke with slight disdain. His facial features were well defined, giving people a sense of determination. However, the only thing that didn't match his determined appearance was his messy white hair that resembled withered grass and his unhealthily pale complexion. Ning Fan, on the other hand, could not hear what this person said as his spirit sense had been destroyed. Behind this person, there were hundreds of human figures that were burning with flames. Ning Fan no longer peeked into the ground. After all, that gigantic creature seemed to be very good at attacking spirit sense. It was extremely unwise to probe it rashly as it would only cause unnecessary damage. Besides, compared to the gigantic creature that was hiding underground, the fire souls of broken sense that were wreaking havoc on the grassland also needed to be dealt with. "Senior, save me!" Duo Lan screamed. She ignored the rules of the combat test and directly rushed into the Tamu combat test area, trying to seek Ning Fan's protection. In other words, the rules of the combat test were already useless in such a chaotic situation. Even if she trespassed the combat test area without permission, no one would stop her. Duo Lan hid behind Ning Fan with a pale face. She did not expect that she would be chased all the way to the grassland of the southern border by the 3 flame guards. Moreover, in order to hunt her down, these stone flame guards directly triggered a fire soul insurrection. How extravagant! The reason why these people chased her all the way to this place could no longer be explained with a simple scheme. Could it be that the secret that she had painstakingly kept was known by some powerful old monsters? That's why they would go through so much trouble just to scheme against a princess who had fallen from grace. There were a total of 4 fire souls of broken sense that were chasing after Duo Lan. All of them were only at the early thought fragmentation realm. With Duo Lan's cultivation base and her body that had yet to fully recover, she was naturally far from being able to resist them. The 4 fire souls did not have high intelligence, but they had the instincts of wild beasts. They could vaguely sense the dangerous qi on Ning Fan's body. For a moment, they did not dare to get too close to him. One of the fire souls of broken sense suddenly took a step forward and said to Ning Fan in an unfamiliar language, "Hand over this woman. We will spare your life. Otherwise, we will kill you." Duo Lan gripped Ning Fan's sleeves tightly. She was afraid that Ning Fan would be afraid of the danger in front of him and abandon her. After all, there was a precedent of Ning Fan not saving her when she was in danger. In fact, Ning Fan was really not concerned about Duo Lan's life or death. However, he did not mind saving Duo Lan along the way. It was not out of kindness. He just wanted to take advantage of the chaos to kill more fire souls of broken sense. Naturally, he would not care about the threat of the few fire souls. Since that giant creature is not going to show itself, I don't need to care about it for now. Now that the combat examination has yet to end, a large number of fragmented wolf fire souls have appeared in the midst of chaos. If I am not wrong, these fire souls that have suddenly appeared are the ones that the high-grade fire summoning talisman could not summon. I wonder if killing these fire souls will be counted into the score of the combat test. If that's true, I can take advantage of this chaos to get the first place in the combat test. The southern border was in chaos. Everyone else was thinking about how to escape with their lives, but Ning Fan was still thinking about winning the first place in the minor competition. Seeing that the 4 fire souls of broken sense did not dare to come closer to him, Ning Fan left Duo Lan behind and took the initiative to dash forward. He directly went towards the 4 fire souls of broken sense that were chasing after Duo Lan. When the 4 fire souls of broken sense saw that Ning Fan actually dared to approach them, all of them were enraged. Immediately, they displayed their abilities and attacked Ning Fan with fire elemental abilities. Ning Fan, of course, was not afraid of them. At the moment when they crossed paths, he had already used his devil flame to exchange a blow with each of the 4 fire souls of broken sense. However, the result was that he and the 4 fire souls were evenly matched. They could not determine the winner in terms of flames. "What a high fire resistance!" Ning Fan exclaimed softly. The fire resistance of the 4 fire souls was too high. In that case, even if his devil flame was powerful and had reached the level of the 12 darkness true fire, it would not be a good idea to fight fire with fire. the damage it could cause was negligible. With the strength of Senior's Devil Flame, it actually can't do anything to these fire souls of broken sense. No, these fire souls have been enhanced by the soul fusion technique. That's why their fire resistance is so strong. Duo Lan suddenly realized something and exclaimed. As soon as she uttered those words, Ning Fan noticed that the 4 flame souls of broken thoughts had an extremely obscure medicine soul power that could greatly increase their fire resistance. He immediately understood what was going on. So that's how it is. Someone has used the soul fusion technique to greatly increase the fire resistance of these earth fire souls. According to Ning Fan's understanding, the people of Dabii were born with medicine souls. Their understanding and utilization of medicine souls were not something that a 4 heavens pill refinement master could compare with. Not only were there many medicine soul skills that were hard to find in the outside world, but there was also an extremely special secret technique in Dabii called the soul fusion technique. It was an original creation of the cultivators of Dabii. One could use the power of one's own medicine soul to enhance the soul power of others through a specific method. The cultivators who were enhanced by the soul power would have all kinds of additional effects on their bodies. Some of them were enhancements such as the increase of their cultivation base, resistance to the 5 elements and speed. Some of them were damage reduction such as sluggishness, poison, accelerated consumption of magic power, dizziness. The specific effects were closely related to the characteristics of the cultivator's medicine soul. Ning Fan had fought against the 3 flame guards before. The soul fusion technique that the 3 flame guards used belonged to the enhancement type. Its effect was to combine everyone's soul power and temporarily increase the cultivation base of a single cultivator. The soul fusion technique that the young clan leader of the evil goat tribe, Xian Yuchen, was good at was a little heaven-defying. It was said that he could inflict tens of negative effects on a group of enemy cultivators. It belonged to the damage reduction type technique. Besides, it was one of a kind among the damage reduction type soul fusion techniques. That was why it was feared by the cultivators of the southern border. As for the fire resistance of these fire souls of broken sense, there was no doubt that someone had enhanced them with the enhancement type soul fusion technique. In that case, even if Ning Fan's devil flame was strong, it would be difficult for him to defeat these fire souls of broken sense with his devil flame alone. That's all there is to it. The 4 fire souls looked at Ning Fan with disdain and killing intent. Seeing that the devil flame was not going to work, Ning Fan did not force it. He immediately kept the devil flame and with a flip of his hand, took out a tender pine seedling that was about a foot tall. He held it up to the sky. Immediately, the pine seedling grew in the sky and turned into a gigantic pine. The pine needles on it were all flying swords. There were countless of them. They were the 4 Emperor's Arhat pines. Among the many magic treasures that he had, this pine tree was not the strongest. However, it was enough to deal with the current situation. Wood element magic treasure. The 4 fire souls did not put the 4 Emperor's Arhat pines in their eyes at all. Wood gives birth to fire. Since they had the upper hand in this aspect, why would they be afraid of this magic treasure? However, the sudden change in the situation made the eyes of the 4 fire souls filled with human-like fear. Ning Fan made a hand seal and 30 million sword rays immediately flew out from the gigantic pine tree. The vast number of flying swords was like a vast ocean, almost covering the entire sky. Many cultivators of the southern border who saw this scene with their own eyes sucked in a cold breath. Flying swords blotting the sky. Just how many flying swords does that external cultivator with the surname Ning have? He actually covered the entire sky with his flying swords. It's not just the number. Almost 1 out of 10 flying swords can be classified as an immortal sword. There are actually so many acquired immortal swords among them. Duo Lan was the closest to Ning Fan. Thus, he could see it more clearly. Among the sea of swords that covered the sky, there were 9 rays of sword light that were the sharpest. They were 912 Nirvana immortal swords. Senior Ning is really generous. Duo Lan was so surprised that he could not close his mouth. Even among the immortal venerables and immortal kings of the sacred mountain, There were not many who had so many 12 Nirvana magic treasures. Could it be that all the immortal venerables of the external cultivators have so many treasures? For a battle between immortal venerables, a single 12 Nirvana magic treasure was enough to affect the outcome of the battle. For a battle between thought fragmentation realm experts, it was almost impossible for those who possess 12 Nirvana magic treasures to lose. In terms of cultivation base, the 4 early thought fragmentation realm fire souls were not even as strong as Ningfan's single ancient devil. In terms of magic treasures, they were even more incomparable. There was no doubt about the outcome of this battle. As Ningfan made a hand seal, countless rays of sword light fell from the sky, killing the 4 fire souls in the sea of swords. The entire process did not take more than 10 breaths. Ningfan looked at his Dominion card. After killing the 4 thought fragmentation fire souls, his score in the combat test had indeed increased by 4,000 points. At the same time, he also obtained 4 thought fragmentation fire crystals. Unfortunately, it was still not enough. In order to become the first in the southern border, he needed more points. Follow me closely. Ningfan's face was expressionless, as if killing the 4 thought fragmentation fire souls was just a trivial matter. With a flash, he flew towards the members of the Towerwood clan. Moving together with him was the ocean of 30 million swords that blotted out the sky. At such a chaotic moment, how would Duo Lan dare to leave Ningfan's side? Naturally, she would follow him wherever he went. At this moment, the rampaging thought fragmentation fire souls had already spread across the southern border. Wherever they went, the grassland was covered in a sea of flames. More killings were taking place continuously. The cultivators of the Towerwood clan were also targeted by a thought fragmentation fire soul. Their clansmen scattered in all directions, but there were still 6 to 7 of them who died in the hands of the fire soul. The clan leader, Tagori, watched as his clansmen died one after another. His heart was filled with sorrow as if it was dripping blood. The members of the Towerwood clan here were all participants of the minor competition. They were the elites of the clan. The death of any one of them was an irreparable loss for the Towerwood clan. To the Towerwood clan, which did not have a large number of experts in the first place, it was an even greater blow. Tagori hated himself for not having enough cultivation base. He hated himself for not being able to kill these fire souls. He hated himself for not being able to protect his clansmen. He hated himself for not being able to tear the mastermind behind the riot of the fire souls into 1,000 pieces. However, the sad thing was that even he himself was targeted by the thought fragmentation fire soul. I will die. When the thought fragmentation fire soul pounced on him, that was the only thought left in Tagori's mind. His face was filled with despair and unwillingness. He let out a loud roar and his eyes turned blood red. Just as he was about to detonate his primordial spirit to fight against the thought fragmentation fire soul, a gentle force suddenly stopped his primordial spirit from burning. Then, sword light that blotted out the sky and covered the earth fell from the sky, easily slashing the thought fragmentation fire soul that was brimming with killing intent just a moment ago into minced meat. Tagori suddenly raised his head. He was not the only one. All of the Tamu people who were fleeing stopped in their tracks and raised their heads. They saw the figure who was standing in the sky and killing the thought fragmentation fire soul like slaughtering dogs. Thank you for saving us, Senior. The sorrowful expression on Tagori and the others' faces gradually faded. It was replaced by gratitude, fanaticism, and crazy worship towards Ningfan. This was a person who could turn the tide in a desperate situation. If it wasn't for him, none of the participants of the Tamu clan would have survived. This person was the benefactor of the Tamu clan. It's 10,000 points. Ningfan merely nodded his head indifferently in response to everyone's gratitude. He glanced at the dominoes and said to Tagori and the others calmly, "Follow me closely." As soon as he finished speaking, he flew towards another direction. Tagori and the others did not dare to be negligent. They immediately followed Duo Lan and hid behind Ningfan. Following Ningfan, they ran all over the grassland. Due to the crazy killing efficiency of the thought fragmentation fire soul, There were not many living beings left on the grassland. Ning Fan was the only one who was still running around recklessly, treating the surrounding fire souls as if they were nothing. 11,000, 12,000, 13,000. Ning Fan's points kept rising as he killed the thought fragmentation fire soul. This score was already enough for him to take the first place in the combat test. However, he still continued to kill the thought fragmentation fire soul along the way and flew towards the evil goat tribe. At this moment, all the surviving cultivators who had some strength had gathered together. The surviving cultivators of the evil goat tribe were also among them. The sacred envoy corpse devil who was in charge of the minor competition of the southern border was also here. He had become the leader of the group. He gathered most of the surviving experts together to fight against the thought fragmentation fire soul. He did not plan to kill them all. He just wanted to stall for time and reduce the number of casualties until the reinforcements from the sacred mountain arrived. As for whether the thought fragmentation fire soul would scatter across the entire grassland of the southern border, it was not something that the sacred envoy corpse devil could stop. With his cultivation base at the early thought fragmentation realm, the role that he could play in this chaotic situation was very limited. Fortunately, the minor competition was held in the Wind Summoning Division. At the critical moment, the Wind Summoning Division directly summoned the Guardian Corpse Devil of their tribe. Surprisingly, it was also an early thought fragmentation realm corpse devil. As a result, the cultivators of the southern border had 2 thought fragmentation realm experts guarding them. Unfortunately, both of them were only at the early thought fragmentation realm. Such strength was enough for the surviving cultivators to stay alive for a short period of time. However, as time passed, trouble would come. Sensing that the experts in this place had gathered together, more and more thought fragmentation fire souls began to surround them. 5, 6, 7, 11. At this moment, 11 thought fragmentation fire souls, including 4 mid-thought fragmentation fire souls, were attacking the group of people led by the sacred envoy corpse devil. The Wind Summoning Division, the evil goat tribe and the other tribes tried their best, but they could only cooperate with the sacred envoy corpse devil to form a grand formation. They were barely able to protect themselves under the attacks of the fire souls. However, as the number of fire souls continued to increase, the formation that the sacred envoy corpse devil had set up was constantly being breached. The situation had become precarious. Once the formation was broken, the fire souls outside would be able to rush in. No one knew how many survivors would be torn to pieces by the fire souls. Inside the grand formation, Nen Zhilong of the Wind Summoning Division's face was ashen. He no longer had the arrogant attitude he had before. If the formation was broken, they would have to face the siege of 11 thought fragmentation fire souls. Even though he was a void-abandoning expert, he was not confident that he could stay alive. The White Ghost Sorcerer of the White Ghost tribe closed his eyes in despair. He could no longer suppress Tamu. If he lost his life, what was the point of pleasing Great Emperor Lu Tua? Once the formation was broken, he would most likely die. Those were 11 thought fragmentation fire souls. The experts of the Black Mountain tribe and Yannan tribe were covered in dust. They were panicking like stray dogs. Their usual superior attitude was nowhere to be seen. On the contrary, Xin Yu Chun was unusually calm. He was not afraid of anyone, especially the people of the Stone Flame tribe. Once the chaos started, Xin Yu Chun was protected by his father and brought to the corpse demon Saint Envoy. Although his life was hanging by a thread, he still calmly performed the soul fusion secret technique and combined everyone's soul power to attack the 11 thought fragmentation fire souls outside the grand formation. One had to admit that Xin Yu Chun's talent in the soul fusion technique was indeed the best in the southern border. He was only at the life immortal realm, but after borrowing everyone's soul power, he forcibly added a damage-reducing soul fusion technique to the 11 fire souls outside the grand formation. Cultivation decreased by 5%, speed decreased by 5%, illusion interference once every 10 breaths, dizziness in the sea of consciousness once every 10 breaths. Fire attack weakened by 5%, magic power consumption increased by 5%. he actually added dozens of damage-reducing soul fusion techniques to the fire souls. Xin Yuchun was indeed a genius in the soul fusion technique. Ordinary people would rarely be able to add more than 10 damage-reducing effects. However, he was able to add dozens of damage-reducing effects at the same time. That was why the 11 thought fragmentation fire souls were greatly weakened. If not for that, the Grand Formation would not have been able to last until now. It could be said that the reason why the cultivators inside the Grand Formation could live for so long was because of Xin Yuchun. Unfortunately, no matter how talented Xin Yuchun was, his cultivation was still too weak. It was impossible for him to completely suppress the 11 thought fragmentation fire souls by himself. Even with the help of many old monsters, he could only slightly weaken the thought fragmentation fire souls. It was impossible for him to greatly restrict them. Bang! Suddenly, a thought fragmentation fire soul knocked open a gap in the weak spot of the Grand Formation. One by one, the thought fragmentation fire souls entered the Grand Formation through the gap. The cultivators inside the Grand Formation were all shocked. In just a single exchange, more than 10 people were killed by the thought fragmentation fire souls that rushed in. The corpse demon Saint Envoy was caught off guard and suffered serious injuries. He brought the Wind Summoning Division's corpse demon guardian and struggled to hold on. However, he could only block a few of the thought fragmentation fire souls. The rest of the thought fragmentation fire souls were slaughtering wantonly inside the Grand Formation. In the distance, more fire souls were still approaching. More and more fire souls surrounded the corpse demon Saint Envoy. As time passed, the Wind Summoning Division's corpse demon guardian was killed by a few fire souls. The corpse demon Saint Envoy finally had the intention to retreat. The fire souls are going berserk. We can't stop them anymore. I'm afraid the Saint Mountain's reinforcements won't be able to make it in time. Do we have to give up on these southern border cultivators? The corpse demon Saint Envoy's eyes turned ruthless. He suddenly rushed out of the Grand Formation, leaving everyone behind and escaping alone. As soon as he left, there were no more thought fragmentation fire souls. They were even more powerless to resist. Some of the agitated cultivators cursed loudly. They were angry that the corpse demon Saint Envoy ran away. However, after a few breaths, a scream came from afar. It was the voice of the corpse demon Saint Envoy. The corpse demon Saint Envoy was intercepted by a half-step 10,000 ancient realm fire soul on his way. After a few rounds, his head was twisted off. No one can escape. The half-step 10,000 ancient realm fire soul said in a hoarse voice. He turned his hand and a flame shot out, burning the corpse demon Saint Envoy's body into ashes. The crowd was shocked. Even an early thought fragmentation realm corpse demon Saint Envoy couldn't escape. Those with weaker cultivation had no hope of escaping. Father, you go first. I'll cover you. Go now. The fire souls were wreaking havoc everywhere. Xin Yuchun's eyes were filled with madness. When he saw a thought fragmentation fire soul pouncing towards his father, he immediately stood in front of his father. No one knew what kind of divine ability he used, but his body suddenly turned into stone. He used his body to block the attack of the thought fragmentation fire soul. After the attack, Xin Yuchun vomited blood and retreated. His face was extremely pale, and his cultivation seemed to have dropped. The Xie Yang tribe's chief was shocked. He didn't expect his son to block the attack of the thought fragmentation fire soul with his life. He also didn't expect that his silly son would stand in front of him at the moment of life and death. The fire soul that was blocked by Xin Yuchun was enraged after its attack failed. It pounced at him again. Xin Yuchun didn't even have time to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth. He stood in front of his father again. The expected pain did not come. A white-robed figure suddenly descended from the sky and stood in front of Xin Yuchun. With a casual attack, he neutralized the attack of the thought fragmentation fire soul. Then he pointed his finger and made a sword art. Countless sword lights fell from the sky and easily killed the fire soul. He obtained another piece of fire crystal. Master! Xin Yuchun's eyes were filled with gratitude. Was he saved by the master he respected the most? Ning Fan ignored Xin Yuchun's cries. He began to massacre the fire soul on his own, causing fear in the thought fragmentation fire souls. His eyes flashed with a hint of enlightenment. When Xin Yuchun stood in front of his father, Ning Fan once again felt the arrival of the heart tribulation. It was not just a flash. Instead, it felt like it was really coming. It was the heart tribulation that led to the mid-shedding void realm. My first heart tribulation was born because of a promise. Even though the second heart tribulation is not clear yet, I can still feel some clues. Unfortunately, now is not the time to break through. Ning Fan suppressed the sudden heart tribulation and continued to kill the fire souls. Inside the body of the gigantic creature, the white-haired muscular man frowned and ordered the people behind him. The one hiding behind this man is Chu Lai and Duo Lan. You guys go and search this woman's soul and memory. You must get what we need and then kill her. If this external cultivator tries to stop you, kill him as well. He has quite a number of 12 Nirvana immortal swords. Be careful. The hundreds of figures behind the white-haired muscular man disappeared one after another. At the same time, on the grassland, the figures of cultivators who were wrapped in flames suddenly appeared around Ning Fan. The cultivation base of these people was not high. Most of them were just at the early truth realm or mid-truth realm. Only a few of them had attained the void-shedding cultivation realm. However, when they formed a formation, their aura force was not any weaker than the weaker 10,000 ancient immortal venerables. It was simply unimaginable. What was even stranger was that as soon as these people appeared, the fire souls who had low spiritual intelligence and killed indiscriminately suddenly rushed towards Ning Fan's location as if they were being controlled. Senior, be careful. These people are the Stone Flame Clan's soul warriors. Their cultivation bases might not be strong, but any one of their medicine souls is strong enough to fight the thought fragmentation fire soul. If these people's souls merge together, it will be even more terrifying. You can't judge a battle soul master's strength by their cultivation. What they cultivate is not their cultivation, but their soul. Chapter 10-11. As soon as Ning Fan heard that there were more than 100 soul warriors in front of him and all of them were soul cultivators, he immediately stopped underestimating them. In the cultivation world, cultivating one's primordial spirit was regarded as the orthodox way. Body refinement was considered as an unorthodox method while soul cultivation was completely different. The reason why the demon race was regarded as a different race was because they cultivated their soul. However, these people in front of him specialized in cultivating their medicine soul. In this aspect, they were even more different than the demon race. However, he could not underestimate them just because of this, even if their cultivation bases were just at the level of Du Zhen and Shikong. Ning Fan could sense the immense soul power contained within the bodies of these soul warriors. Almost every one of them had attained the 9th Revolution Gold Core Realm Medicine Soul. Of course, it did not mean that all of them were Gold Core Realm Pill Refinement Masters. Even though their medicine souls were strong, they were forcefully enhanced through special methods. Thus, they had a huge flaw. They could only be used in battles to display the soul skills of their battle souls. They could not be used to concoct pills or identify spiritual herbs. Hand over Chu Lai and Duo Lan. Otherwise die. The hundreds of soul warriors shouted at the same time. All of a sudden, the soul power of heaven and earth surged. Their aura force did not move the wind or the clouds. It was not earth-shattering, but it directly struck everyone's soul. Its power was comparable to the roar of an immortal venerable. How could Duo Lan and the surviving cultivators withstand such an aura force? All of them coughed out blood under the pressure. The difference in their strength was just too huge. Ning Fan was the only one who remained calm. He did not care about the threats from the soul warriors. He raised his hand slightly and calmly suppressed the ancient aura force. Then, he said to the people behind him, "All of you hide here. I will handle everything here alone." As soon as he finished speaking, he drew a line on the ground. A golden line instantly appeared on the ground. That golden line was like a swimming snake. It moved along with Ning Fan's finger and circled around the area, forming a giant circle. All the surviving cultivators behind Ning Fan were trapped inside the circle. It might seem slow, but in reality, it only took the blink of an eye. The golden circle had taken shape. All of a sudden, it caused the great momentum of heaven and earth to change. It resonated with the heavens and drew the earth as its momentum, turning it into an earth elemental defensive grand formation. If one were to take a closer look, they would realize that the earth elemental grand formation was extremely similar to the formations in many ancient sacred domain cultivators' abodes. It was obvious that Ning Fan had imitated it after observing it for many times. Under the control of the soul warriors, the flame souls of broken thoughts wanted to charge into the golden circle and capture Duolan. However, they were blocked by the vast power of the array. Even with the cultivation of the flame souls of broken thoughts, they could not step into the golden circle. That greatly surprised Duolan. She did not expect that Ning Fan would risk a conflict with the Tri-Flame guards to protect her. Oh, this person actually did not rely on any external objects to set up the formation. Instead, he pointed to the ground to form the formation. Furthermore, the formation that he set up is extremely powerful. From this, it seems that this person's comprehension towards the general trend has already reached a certain level. After all, in the entire great desolate continent, not every single immortal sovereign from the ancient times is able to form a formation by pointing to the ground. The white-haired robust man said solemnly. Ning Fan's action of instructing Lu Li to form the formation had also caused a lot of exclamations on the ground. However, Ning Fan turned a blind eye to those exclamations. He only ordered everyone to keep a close watch on the formation and maintain its operation. After all, this formation was not specially set up by Ning Fan. Instead, it was set up casually by Ning Fan. First of all, it lacked the support of the Tao crystals. Now, it needed the magic power of the group of cultivators to sustain it. Besides, although the process of setting up the formation seemed heaven-defying, there were actually a lot of flaws. The difficulty of setting up the formation was also extremely high, and the power of the formation would be greatly reduced. If it wasn't for the fact that Ning Fan had grasped the secret of the word, force, he would certainly not be able to do it with his current cultivation base. If he wasn't pressed for time, he wouldn't have used such an unconventional method. When those soul warriors saw that Ning Fan not only refused to hand her over but also set up a grand formation to protect Duolan, each of their faces turned gloomy and their killing intent surged. If you don't hand him over, then I'll kill you as well. Soul art, movement like seal. Hundreds of battle soul masters cast their techniques at the same time. Instantly, a shackling soul power was sealed on Ning Fan's body. Ning Fan's expression changed slightly. He felt as if his feet were filled with lead as he was sealed by everyone's soul power. He could not even move an inch. This was also because his cultivation was limited, which was why he couldn't move. However, according to his estimations, even if his cultivation was still there, with his strength that was comparable to the immortal exalts, his speed would still be greatly affected by this powerful soul power. Soul art, sealed thoughts. The spirit sense of Ning Fan's rain technique, which had always been successful, was actually sealed, making it hard for him to spread it out of his sea of consciousness. Soul art, extinguish fire. The 12 darkness devil flame in his body actually showed signs of extinguishing. Soul art, extreme darkness. The scenery in front of him became darker and darker. Gradually he lost his sight. Everything happened in an instant. As the hundreds of battle soul masters cast their techniques at the same time, Ning Fan's body was inflicted with nearly 100 negative effects. Before he could even exchange blows with these battle soul masters, he had already lost his ability to move. His spirit sense and the circulation of his magic power were unprecedentedly stagnant. His resistance to the 5 elements was greatly weakened. Every few breaths, he would be attacked by an illusion technique. It was definitely Ning Fan's first time experiencing such a strange battle ever since he started cultivating the Tao. As soon as they exchanged blows, he was completely suppressed and had no way to fight back. Moreover, there were hundreds of soul skills of the Battle Soul Masters that carried great destructive power blasting towards Ning Fan. Ning Fan could not see the enemies in all directions. His vision had already been sealed and he could not hear any sound. However, the constant chills that came from his back reminded him that after the enemies inflicted the negative effects on him, they started to attack him. If he stood still and did not move, he would only become a target and be killed by this group of enemies who did not have a strong cultivation base but had extremely strong soul power. Ning Fan secretly activated the God Exterminating Shield in his body and turned the golden light around his body to the maximum. Even though he could not move, under the protection of the golden light, he was like a big tree in the wind. Even though he did not move, he was not harmed at all. What kind of golden light is this? Such a defense. Is it possible for a restricted immortal venerable to display? The white-haired muscular man who was underground frowned. The soul skills of the Battle Soul Masters were at least as powerful as the thought-breaking strike. Under the joint attack of 100 of them, even immortal venerables in the ancient times would not dare to take it head-on. However, Ning Fan remained invincible with just the golden light around his body despite being inflicted with various negative effects. This caused the group of Battle Soul Masters to be astonished. Ning Fan also realized that after activating the golden light, not only did he defend himself from the attacks of the enemies, but the negative effects that were inflicted on him also lost their effects bit by bit. His line of sight gradually returned. His divine consciousness gradually returned to normal. His footsteps no longer felt heavy. All the reduced attributes were restored. So that was how it was. Ning Fan had found a way to defend against the soul fusion technique. The prerequisite for the soul fusion technique to harm others was that one had to attach their own soul power to the other person. If the other person's soul power was strong enough, it would be enough to directly erase some of the harmful effects on the body. If the other party had a special defensive method, it would be enough to isolate the negative soul power on their body. Ning Fan's medicine soul was not strong enough. Fortunately, he had the God Exterminating Shield, which was a heaven-opening divine tool. It was not difficult for him to defend against the soul fusion technique of a group of thought fragmentation realm experts. However, this meant that he had to constantly activate his golden light protection when facing these Battle Soul Masters. He couldn't afford to be careless for even a moment. Duo Lan and the others were protected by the grand formation that he had set up. As long as they worked hard to maintain the formation, their lives would not be in danger for the time being. As for the other cultivators who were in trouble on the grassland, Ning Fan was too lazy to save them. After activating the protective golden light around his body, he directly rushed towards the 100 or so soul warriors. Since he had suffered some minor losses just now, he naturally wanted to get back at them. There was a reason why these Battle Soul Masters were in formation and did not dare to split up. With Ning Fan's intelligence, he could easily see through the crux of the matter. Even though these people had strong soul power, they were just a group of Duzhen and Shikong Shi at the end of the day. Theoretically, each of them could display a powerful soul skill that was comparable to the thought fragmentation strike. Their offensive power was impeccable and they were strong enough to deter immortal venerables from the ancient times. However, their defensive power was not high and their speed was not fast either. If they are alone, it would be extremely difficult for them to protect themselves. That was why they gathered in a group. If their enemies get close to them, they would also be in danger. Any random Shikong Shi technique would be enough to take away one of their lives. That was why these people would keep a distance from each other and cautiously avoid getting close to their enemies. At this moment, when they saw Ning Fan rushing towards them from the front, all the Battle Soul Masters were shocked. Each of them used their soul skills to block him. However, how could they stop Ning Fan, who was protected by the golden light? Ning Fan's ancient devil physical body was already extremely strong in the first place. Now that he had the protection of the golden light, he did not even bother to dodge the incoming divine abilities. Instead, he directly rushed towards them in a barbaric manner. He used his strength to break through the divine abilities that were flying towards him and broke through the formation of the Battle Soul Masters with ease. With a wave of his devil palm, a battle soul master was directly slapped to death. With a point of his devil finger, another battle soul master was killed. Then he controlled the ocean of 30 million swords, and the flying swords rained down like a pear blossom rainstorm, causing another large number of battle soul masters to die. Killing these battle soul masters was as easy as killing Junior Dujin. In just less than 10 breaths of time, more than 40 battle soul masters had already died in Ning Fan's hands. The remaining battle soul masters were horrified. They quickly retreated and kept shouting strange words that Ning Fan could not understand. As a result, the fire souls that were besieging the formation immediately gave up the idea of attacking the formation. Instead, they surrounded Ning Fan to kill him. Why would Ning Fan be afraid of these flame souls of broken thoughts? When the 30 million flying swords swept across the area, many early and mid-stage thought fragmentation realm fire souls lost their lives. Even those half-step eternal ancient realm fire souls had to retreat slightly instinctively when they saw the scariness of the ocean of 30 million swords. They did not dare to rush into it head-on. Once they are caught in it, even if they did not die, they would at least suffer some injuries. In terms of defense, Ning Fan's magic power was abundant. He was almost innately invincible. He even managed to block the immortal King Realm Firebird that day. Why would he be afraid of these battle soul masters and fire souls who were comparable to the flame souls of broken thoughts? In terms of offense, Ning Fan's 30 million flying swords were almost an invincible method to these flame souls. Even if it is used in a battle between immortal venerables, it was enough to make many immortal venerables tremble in fear. The white-haired muscular man who was underground could no longer sit still. It was fine if it was just the fire souls, but these battle soul masters were the elites among his subordinates. Judging from the current situation, as time goes by, most of them would be wiped out by Ning Fan. This was something he could not tolerate. I initially thought that this operation would be a surefire success. I didn't expect this person to be a hindrance. 100 Lily Stone Dragon, devour this person. The white-haired muscular man said viciously. What responded to the white-haired muscular man was an ancient beast's roar which sounded like both an ox and an elephant. Then, a massive creature rose continuously from the ground. A moment ago, it was still in the absolute darkness underground. In the next moment, it rushed to the surface of the ground and a massive head suddenly emerged from the ground. It was a head as large as a small city. It looked very similar to a pangolin. However, it was different from an ordinary pangolin. Its scales were greenish-gray in color, and there was a pair of strange sharp horns on its head. There was a huge nose ring on its nose, and its eyes could not be opened. It seemed to be a degeneration caused by living underground for a long time. Not good. It's 100 Lily Stone Dragon. Many cultivators who were lucky enough to survive exclaimed. However, before their exclamations could spread, they felt the sky turning dark and the earth turning dark. It turned out that even the ground had been devoured by the gigantic creature. With just a single bite, the gigantic creature had devoured the grassland within a radius of several tens of li, leaving a deep pit that was tens of thousands of zhang wide and tens of li wide. Then, it timidly drilled back into the ground. Be it Ning Fan, the group of battle soul cultivators, the countless fire souls, or even the cultivators who were hiding in the formation like Duolon, all of them were devoured. Even the 30 million flying swords that filled the sky and the 4 emperors Arhat Pine at the center of the Sea of Swords were completely devoured. Ning Fan's expression was a little shocked. It was not that he did not sense the gigantic creature rising from the ground. However, before he could react, he was already swallowed into the creature's stomach. He had to admit that the speed at which the creature moved from the ground to the surface was unimaginably fast. It was completely incongruous with its gigantic body size. Therefore, Ning Fan did not have the time to defend against it. It's over. We're dead for sure. The body of 100 Li Stone Dragon is extremely tough. Even an immortal king would find it hard to break out of its stomach and escape after being swallowed. They can only be trapped inside until they die. Only those with the status of Devil Son or above can possess 100 Li Stone Dragon of the Stone Flame lineage. There must be a devil son of the stone flame lineage hidden inside this stone dragon's stomach. This stone dragon came for Holy Maiden Chu Lai. Now that it has succeeded, it must be returning to the stone flame lineage. With the speed of this stone dragon, it will certainly return to the stone flame lineage in less than 3 days. Are we going to be captured and brought back to the stone flame lineage? If it's just capturing it alive, it might not necessarily be a bad thing. At least, we still have the possibility of defecting to the stone flame lineage and keeping our lives. I'm just afraid that the devil's son will look down on us and directly kill us on our way back. Some of the cultivators of the southern border saw that the situation was hopeless, and they even had the thought of defecting to the stone flame lineage. 3 flame guards were not allowed to enter and leave the ominous domain freely. It was a rule set by the saint before his death. However, there were 2 types of 3 flame guards that could enter and leave the ominous domain freely. The first type was the minority of cultivators who had passed the Flame Ancestors trial and had the possibility to enter and leave the ominous domain freely. The other type was not the bloodline of the 3 flame guards but the cultivators of the Great Bay Grassland. However, they had betrayed the Great Bay Grassland and joined the Tri-Flames. These people were naturally not restricted by the rules of the ominous domain and could enter and leave the ominous domain freely. There was no lack of conflicts and killings between the 3 flame guards and the Great Bay Grassland. Cultivators of the Great Bay Grassland would often be captured alive by the 3 flame lineage. Among those who were captured alive, some of the more talented cultivators would be recruited by the 3 flame lineage. As long as they betrayed the 3 flame lineage, they would be able to keep their lives. However, one needed to be qualified to betray the 3 flame lineage. At least among the cultivators here, there were only a few who had the qualifications to be recruited by the 3 flame lineage. I can't believe that I would be captured by the stone flame for the second time in my life. Xin Yuchun closed his eyes unwillingly. He would rather die than betray the Tri-Flames because there was a blood feud between him and the Tri-Flames. His mother had died in the hands of the Tri-Flames. I can't escape anymore. Duo Lan's face turned pale. She knew that if the other party came for that secret, she would still be killed even if she confesses everything. After all, this matter was of great importance. The fewer people who know about it, the better. Where did those Fire Soul Realm and Battle Soul Realm cultivators go? The 4 Emperor's Arhat-Pines are also gone. Ning Fan did not care about the various expressions of the crowd. Instead, he frowned and observed his surroundings. They were inside the stomach of the 100-li stone dragon. With its gigantic body, its interior was naturally extremely spacious. Ning Fan and the others were swallowed together with the Battle Soul Realm cultivators. However, other than them, no one else could see where the Battle Soul Realm cultivators were. It seemed like there was a difference in how the 100-li stone dragon swallowed people. Perhaps when it swallowed those people, it directly teleported them to another place. This also explained why the 4 Emperor's Arhat-Pines had disappeared. Perhaps his 30 million flying swords and the 4 Emperor's Arhat-Pines had been forcefully taken away by someone the moment they were swallowed into the stomach of the stone dragon. The 100-li stone dragon had a great restraining effect on spirit sense. In its stomach, Ning Fan actually could not spread out his spirit sense freely. Once he does so, his spirit sense would spontaneously combust without any fire and be burnt to ashes. In that case, Ning Fan could no longer search the world inside the stone dragon's stomach wantonly. All of a sudden, the sound of footsteps resounded from afar. Gradually, a group of people walked out from the darkness. The leader of the group was a white-haired muscular man. His aura force was rather strong. His cultivation base had just reached the eternal ancient immortal realm. It seemed like he had just broken through to the eternal ancient immortal venerate realm not long ago. Behind the white-haired muscular man were more than 60 Battle Soul Realm cultivators. They were the survivors of Ning Fan's massacre. Each of them was staring at Ning Fan with eyes filled with hatred and fear. Further behind them were more than 130 thought-fragmented fire souls. Originally, there were 175 of them. Those that were not here were all killed by Ning Fan and turned into points for the combat test. These fire souls did not have high intelligence. However, when they looked at Ning Fan, their eyes were filled with instinctive fear. Ning Fan's gaze swept past the white-haired muscular man. When his gaze fell on the item in his hand, his eyes immediately turned grim. His four Emperor's Arhat pine was currently being played with in the white-haired muscular man's hand without any damage. It seemed like it had been forcefully taken away by him. So it's him, the seventh devil's son of the stone flame, Mengjin. As soon as the white-haired muscular man appeared, many cultivators of the southern border recognized him. Their faces were filled with despair. He was the devil's son of the stone flame who had the cultivation base of an immortal venerate. With such a strong enemy surrounding them, they really did not have any hope of surviving while they were still trapped inside the stone dragon's stomach. Many of the cultivators of the southern border revealed expressions of fighting to the death. However, there were also some who had other thoughts. Nan Jilong of the wind summoning tribe gritted his teeth and suddenly walked out from behind Ning Fan. He knelt in front of the white-haired muscular man. There were no less than 50 people who behaved like him. Among them were the White Ghost Mage of the White Ghost Tribe and the Black Mountain Mage of the Black Mountain Tribe. Many old monsters who had suppressed the Towerwood tribe before were actually among them. Well, it wasn't surprising. Those who always thought of stepping on others to rise to power were naturally not kind people. If such people were faced with death, it was reasonable for them to turn traitor. Oh, it's Lord Mengjin. It's because our skills are inferior that we have fallen into Lord Mengjin's hands. I beg Lord Mengjin to let us go and allow us to join the Stone Flame clan and work for them. Ning Fan knitted his brows. He had always disliked those who begged for mercy on their knees. The white-haired muscular man who was called Mengjin burst into laughter. After laughing, he suddenly struck with lightning speed. In the next moment, the physical bodies of the 50-plus people including Nan Jilong exploded. All of them died tragically. Why don't you measure your own strength first before joining the Stone Flame? Mengjin's eyes glanced at the corpses on the ground and said disdainfully. Among the cultivators of the southern border, some of them were aghast. Some of them grieved for the death of their own kind while some of them were secretly delighted. Those who were delighted obviously could not bear to see Nan Jilong and the others joining the enemy. Mengjin's eyes swept across Ning Fan and the others. His eyes only stopped on Xin Yuchun, Nethersea Venerable Duo Lan and Xin Yuchun. Finally, his eyes fell on Ning Fan. He smiled coldly and waved the 4 Emperor's Arhat pine in his hand. It's a good magic treasure. Unfortunately, the cultivation base of the person using it has been sealed. Otherwise, even if I brought 100 Li Stone Dragon with me, I wouldn't be able to take this treasure away so easily. His eyes carried 30% fear but 70% arrogance that came from his bones. Arrogance was because he was the dignified devil's son of the Stone Flame clan while the other party was just an external cultivator. On the other hand, fear was because of the strange golden light that protected his body. In the river where Mengjin grew up, there were not many people who could make him feel fear. In Mengjin's understanding, Ning Fan was an immortal venerable whose cultivation base had been sealed. Due to the rules of the world, Ning Fan would never take the initiative to destroy the ring. However, if he were to push this person too far, it would be hard to say what he would do. If it was an ordinary immortal venerable, Mengjin would definitely not be afraid. If he dares to resist, he would just kill him. However, Ning Fan's golden light really made him unable to remain calm. Even with the restriction of his cultivation base, this person could still face hundreds of battle soul masters and hundreds of flame souls of broken thoughts unscathed. If this person destroys the ring and recovers to his peak state, perhaps even the 100 Li Stone Dragon would not be able to suppress him. According to the mission, he must search Chu Lai Duo Lan's memories and find that secret. After that, he would kill Duo Lan to silence him. However, it was obvious that Ning Fan wanted to protect Chu Lai Duo Lan. If that was the case, things would become difficult. In order to complete the mission, he must first find a way to take down Ning Fan. Do you want to live or die? Mengjin chanted an incantation in his heart. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed and he asked. Naturally, There was only Ning Fan who could make him an immortal venerable, address him respectfully. So what if I want to die? So what if I want to live? Ning Fan asked with an expressionless face, but in his heart, he suddenly exclaimed in surprise and glanced at the soil beneath his feet. If you want to live, then hand over Chu Lai Duolon and obediently submit to the 3 flames. Become my stone flame slave. After I place a restriction on you, I can open the mouth of the stone dragon and let you live. I can even return this flying sword pine to you. If you want to die, this Meng can fulfill your wish right now. Even if you have that strange golden light protecting you, I'm quite confident in being able to kill you. Do you believe me or not? Meng Zhen was extremely conceited. He paused for a moment before he continued. Perhaps you think you can destroy the Xing Ring and escape with your original cultivation. But you must know that if you really destroy the Xing Ring, even if you have a 1 in 10,000 chance of escaping from me, you won't be able to escape the pursuit of the great humble celestial emperor. Those old things won't ask you why you destroyed the punishment ring, and they won't show any respect or understanding to an external cultivator like you. They will only chase you endlessly for this matter. With your strength, how can you survive the pursuit of the immortal emperors? Besides, I'm not afraid to tell you that you don't even have a 1 in 10,000 chance of escaping. Do you know that I've refined this 100 Li stone dragon's stomach with countless precious treasures? It can even trap an immortal king. Do you know where this 100 Li stone dragon is heading right now? It's not going to return to the stone flame directly. Instead, it's going to the Seal of 2 Realms first to return the broken thought fire soul that I borrowed. Tell me, isn't the Seal of 2 Realms scary? If you go there, no matter how strong you are, it'll be as easy as flipping my palm to kill you. As long as the stone dragon spits you into the Seal of 2 Realms, you might be able to survive. Meng Zhen smiled coldly. He wanted to see the fear in Ning Fan's eyes. Unfortunately, Ning Fan's expression was calm. It was because he did not know anything about the so-called Seal of 2 Realms. Naturally, he was not afraid. On the other hand, the expressions of the cultivators of the southern border changed drastically after hearing about the Seal of 2 Realms. It seems like you don't know what the Seal of 2 Realms is. I don't mind explaining it to you. Meng Zhen wanted to say something, but he suddenly noticed the mocking smile on Ning Fan's lips. His expression immediately turned gloomy. I didn't expect you to actually find out. You've made me waste my effort. Aren't you going to continue introducing the Seal of 2 Realms? Ning Fan looked at Meng Zhen mockingly. Suddenly, his primordial spirit drilled out from the ground. At the same time, it brought along 18 skeletal puppets that were burning with flames. All of them had been killed by Ning Fan's primordial spirit. There were 9 big ones and 9 small ones. The big one was an adult female skeleton, while the small ones were the skeletons of young boys and girls. The mother-child puppet of 1 heart. A few cultivators of the southern border recognized the origin of the puppets. They exclaimed in surprise and looked at Meng Zhen with lingering fear. The mother-child puppet of 1 heart was an extremely sinister thing. If one was really sneak-attacked by it, even an immortal revered throughout the ages would lose a layer of skin. Most of the people were still confused. They had no idea when Ning Fan's primordial spirit left his body and drilled into the ground. They also did not understand the hidden meaning in the conversation between Meng Zhen and Ning Fan. They also did not know why there were 18 skeletal puppets underground. Meng Zhen, however, did not intend to talk nonsense with Ning Fan anymore. He was not a person who liked to talk nonsense. The reason why he chatted with Ning Fan just now was to stall for time and divert Ning Fan's attention. Then, he would seize the opportunity to order the mother-child puppet to sneak under Ning Fan and launch a sneak attack. This place was located inside the belly of the stone dragon. Outsiders could not spread out their spirit sense. This gave Meng Zhen a chance to launch a sneak attack. Ning Fan's protective golden light was too strong. It made Meng Zhen fearful and decided to use some unorthodox methods. Unexpectedly, Ning Fan had seen through everything. His plan failed and he even lost the 18 puppets in vain. Since my plan failed, I will take your life with my own hands. Meng Zhen did not plan to let Ning Fan live from the beginning. Now that his plan was exposed, his killing intent was immediately triggered. He kept the 4 Emperor's Arhat Pine in his hand and dashed towards Ning Fan in a flash. The group of soul warriors behind him cast their techniques at the same time, giving the white-haired brawny man a buff. Meng Zhen was a body cultivator. Under the support of the many soul warriors, his strength increased by 30%. Ning Fan did not dare to be careless in front of this person. He pointed at Lu Qingzhen again to protect Duo Lan and the others. After that, he activated his protective golden light and rushed towards Meng Zhen. The two of them directly collided with each other using pure physical strength. Ning Fan was directly sent flying backwards. In terms of physical strength, there was a huge gap between him and the white-haired brawny man. Fortunately, he had the God-exterminating shield to protect him. Thus, he was not injured. However, the Tenjiang golden light was dented by the white-haired brawny man. Ning Fan's expression became even more solemn. Meng Zhen's eyes became even more gloomy. One should know that not many of those senior First Tribulation immortal venerables could withstand his attack head-on. However, it was not enough to completely break Ning Fan's Tenjiang golden light. From the looks of it, the scariness of the golden light's defense was far beyond his expectation. Your 30 million flying swords are already in my hands. So what if you have a heaven-defying defense? 9 breaths of Qi submission technique, 1 breath of fire submission technique. Meng Zhen muttered incantations. All of a sudden, he flipped his hand and took out a fiery red crystal core. He rubbed his palm and it turned into powder. Then, he scattered it into the sky and it turned into a boundless sea of fire. That crystal core looked exactly the same as the fire crystal Ning Fan obtained from killing the fire soul. The only difference was the fire power it contained. Meng Zhen suddenly inhaled at the sea of fire. Instantly, he absorbed nearly 1/3 of the sea of fire. Then, he inhaled another third of the sea of fire. After that, he seemed to have reached his limit and could no longer absorb any more, causing the sea of fire to disperse. Meng Zhen's physical body expanded by a size each time he absorbed the flames. His body became thicker and filled with explosive power. Meng Zhen dashed out and clashed with Ning Fan again. Ning Fan could clearly feel that after Meng Zhen used the 9 breaths of Qi submission technique, the strength of his physical body had greatly increased. He could already break through the golden light that was nearly 1 zhang. Unfortunately, my comprehension is limited. I can only achieve 2 breaths of Qi submission technique. If I can achieve more than 6 breaths, I think it would be enough to break through this young man's golden light. After exchanging hundreds of blows with Ning Fan, Meng Zhen still could not do anything to him. His eyes became even more gloomy. He flipped his hand and took out the other 2 fire crystals. He then rubbed them into powder to use his ability. Meng Zhen did not seem to make any changes to his hand seals. Suddenly, flames burst out from his hand. Then, a 1-meter-long flaming blade appeared in the flames. There were dark golden runes flowing on the blade. The flaming blade was an item of the Buddha sect. However, the blade that Meng Zhen summoned did not have any Buddha nature at all. Instead, it gave people a feeling that it was filled with monstrous devil qi. This blade was not a magic treasure. Instead, it was the manifestation of a divine ability. Extremely pure Tao of fire coiled around it. Without seeing how the white-haired muscular man made his move, the flaming blade suddenly disappeared as if it was just controlled by his spirit sense. Its speed was so fast that it could not be seen at all. Then, a strong penetrating force came from Ning Fan's left shoulder. The flaming blade had already reached his left shoulder, but it was blocked by the golden light that was protecting him. Even though he managed to block the flaming blade, Ning Fan's golden light was still pierced through 2 zhang. It was so sharp. How can this person's defense be so strong? Meng Zhen's confidence was greatly damaged. The flaming blade was his trump card. After using this technique, his already pale skin became even paler. It was obvious that he had consumed a lot of his energy. This technique was the 11th technique of the 12 Stones of Flame Ancestor Fire technique. With his cultivation base that had yet to stabilize, he could not use it too many times. Using it once was already his limit. In the past, when he used it, even a first tribulation immortal venerable would be severely injured. However, he could not even break Ning Fan's golden light. This was Ning Fan who had his cultivation base restricted. If he was at his peak, he would not be able to fight back at all in front of Ning Fan. After hundreds of rounds of fighting, the more techniques Ning Fan used, the more frustrated Meng Zhen was. The seventh Devil Son's arrogance was getting more and more damaged. He could not help but admit that Ning Fan's tortoise shell was too hard. His magic power was also endless. In this way, it was not possible for him to exhaust his magic power. On the contrary, Meng Zhen's magic power was greatly depleted. If the battle continues, he would probably suffer a great loss due to the depletion of his magic power. Are you determined to protect Chu Lai and Duolan and become enemies with me, Shi Yan? Meng Zhen said in a gloomy tone. Ning Fan did not bother to respond to Meng Zhen at all. This made Meng Zhen ask for a snub and he no longer talked to Ning Fan. All of a sudden, the ground inside the stone dragon's abdomen shook violently. It was as if the stone dragon that was moving rapidly had hit something and came to a sudden halt. Meng Zhen suddenly sneered when he sensed the tremor. After exchanging another blow with Ning Fan, he suddenly disappeared in front of Ning Fan and the others along with the group of soul warriors and the flame soul of broken thought. They had actually left the stone dragon's body and arrived at the outside world. The seal of 2 realms has arrived. I can't break your golden light, but I don't believe that the saint power of the seal of 2 realms can't kill you. Meng Zhen brought a group of his subordinates and appeared in the dark underground world. There was actually a large area of soilless space underground. Even the gigantic stone dragon that was 100 li could move freely in this soilless space. On the ground not far away from them, there was an abyss that was burning with flames. The abyss was bottomless and no one knew where it led to. Besides, there was a powerful force that could stop anyone from probing the vicinity of the abyss and kill anyone who enters it. Oh, Devil's Son Meng Zhen has returned? I wonder if he can capture that Chu Lai Duolan? 4 rays of dark green flames suddenly shot out from the abyss and landed outside the abyss. They turned into 4 people. There was an elderly man and a burly man. However, all of them were illusions and not real bodies. Even though they did not descend with their real bodies, one could still tell from their chi that their true bodies were at least at the immortal emperor realm. They were actually the illusions of 4 immortal emperors who were guarding this place. Besides, judging from their appearance and chi, the true bodies of these 4 people clearly belonged to the Fire Spirit Clan. They were the experts of the Fire Spirit Clan. Fortunately, I didn't fail you. However, I haven't gotten the chance to pry out the secret that Chu Lai Duolan told me. Now, there's still a problem inside this 100 li stone dragon that's preventing me from completing my task. Speaking of Ning Fan, Meng Zhen also felt a headache. Problem? Little friend Meng, you should know that we, the Fire Spirit Clan, can't cross the seal of 2 realms and descend to the outside world without the summoning of the Fire Talisman. Even if you bring this problem here, don't expect us to help you kill the intruders. As soon as they heard that Meng Zhen had not completed his task, the 4 illusions of the immortal emperors were instantly displeased. Chapter 10-12. I'm naturally aware of this. There's no need for imperial monarchs to worry about killing this person. I'll naturally think of a way to deal with this trouble. Meng Zhen glanced at the flaming abyss with deep meaning in his eyes. The 4 immortal emperors immediately understood and smiled at each other. The fiery abyss was set up by the herb gatherer saint before he died, and there was a seal within it that suppressed the fire spirit race forever. It was called the Seal of 2 Worlds. The 2 Realms seal was a fire elemental seal. It was divided into 2 layers, the inner and the outer layer. The inner layer contained extremely complicated variations of the Tao of Fire. Even immortal emperors from the Abdicate tribe who cultivated fire for their entire lives couldn't see through the variations of the Tao of Fire. In reality, it wasn't that the celestial emperors of the Sagely Mountain were unaware of the existence of the Dual Realm seal. It was precisely because of how dangerous it was that they kept it a secret. Debay had a total of 108 grasslands. Under each grassland was a seal of 2 realms. However, those who had the right to know the location of the sealed realms were at least the 10,000 ancient celestial sovereigns. Cultivators from small tribes in the southern border grasslands definitely did not have the right to know. To any despicable person, the seal of 2 realms was an absolutely dangerous place. In ancient times, there was a celestial emperor of the sacred mountain who wanted to pass through the seal of the 2 worlds to find out where the fire soul race was. In the end, he couldn't even pass through the outer seal, let alone the inner seal. The celestial emperor was even more careless and was trapped in the outer seal. It took him 10 years to escape. However, when he broke free, his body was destroyed, his magic treasures were destroyed, and his primordial spirit even suffered irreparable burns. After holding on for another few hundred years, his primordial spirit's injuries worsened to the limit, and he was unable to hold on any longer. He died with hatred in his heart, and the way he died was extremely tragic. His primordial spirit was burnt to ashes. This matter shocked the entire sacred mountain. In the end, everything regarding the 2 realms seal became a top secret of the sacred mountain. Only the ancient cultivators were qualified to know a bit about it. Low-level cultivators were never allowed to spread the information, as they were afraid that some reckless juniors would go to the 2 realms seal and die. As a result, low-level cultivators only knew that the Fire Spirit clan was sealed under the Dabii grassland, but few could find the locations of the Fire Spirit clan seals. If it wasn't for Meng Zhen who kidnapped Ning Fan and his group and brought them to this place, it would be extremely difficult for Ning Fan to find this place by himself. The outer seal was already extremely dangerous, but the inner seal was even more dangerous than the outer seal. It was said that within the inner seal, there was a remnant of a saint's evil will. Anyone who crossed the boundary would be killed without mercy. The fire soul race was trapped underground. If they wanted to rush out, they had to break through the inner seal and then break through the outer seal. However, the sad thing was that in the long history of the Fire Spirit clan, there had never been a fire spirit expert who could break through the inner seal with his own strength. Forcefully entering the inner seal would only result in death. Even the Fire Soul Immortal Emperor was no exception. Once they entered the inner seal, they wouldn't be able to escape in time and would die a horrible death. For example, these 4 Fire Soul Celestial Emperors only dared to turn into an illusion and land near the 2-world seal. That was already their limit. It was impossible for him to charge out of the seal of the 2 realms with his true body. The Fire Spirit race had sealed their hatred for the 2 worlds, but more than that, they were in awe. It was as if they were worshipping gods, and they kept a respectful distance. According to the knowledge of the Fire Spirit race, the inner seal was a dangerous place. Whoever entered would die. The outer seal was barely a dangerous place. If an immortal emperor entered, they might have a chance to escape. However, if an immortal venerable or immortal king entered, they would definitely die. It seems like little friend Meng Zhen is planning to use the 100-mile Stone Dragon's Earth space technique to throw that troublesome person into the 2 realms seal and burn him to death. However, this time, little friend borrowed 175 thought fragment fire souls. Why did you only bring back these? One of the Fire Soul Emperor's shadow changed the topic and asked with a frown. To the Fire Spirit race, although there were many thought fragment fire souls, there were not so many that they could ignore the casualties. This Fire Soul Emperor took a quick glance and found that there were only a little more than 100 thought fragment fire souls. Those that couldn't return must have been killed. Instantly, he was dissatisfied. This was not a small matter. If it was said that the southern border cultivators killed the thought fragment fire souls, this Fire Soul Immortal Emperor would never believe it. The southern border was only a small place. The strength of the cultivators here was limited. It was possible to kill a few thought fragment fire souls together, but it was impossible to kill 70 of them. There must be other people involved in this matter. This number of casualties had exceeded the expectations of the Fire Soul Great Emperors. As he spoke, the Fire Soul Great Emperor took out talismans one after another. These talismans were similar to the Fire Summoning Talisman, but they were also very different. After chanting, the flame souls of broken thoughts that Mengzhen brought back turned into flickering flames one after another, disappearing from where they were. They had been summoned back to the fire soul race. Such a heavy loss. Naturally, someone interfered with our plan. That person is the troublesome person that I mentioned. This person is a 10,000 ancient immortal venerable. However, because he is an external cultivator, he was sealed by the holy mountain Xinghuan. Therefore, he can't even use half of his strength. Speaking up to this point, Mengzhen clearly saw the disdain in the eyes of the Fire Soul Great Emperors and immediately felt ashamed. The dignified Stone Flame Devil's Son couldn't even kill an immortal venerable external cultivator with half of his strength. This was a blow to the arrogant Stone Flame Devil's Son. If it wasn't for the strength of the 100-mile Stone Dragon, the plan to capture Duo Lan would have ended in failure. Fortunately, they managed to capture Duo Lan in the end. External Cultivator. A mere external cultivator dares to kill more than 70 of my compatriots. I really want to kill this person with my own hands. It's a pity that my true body can't escape. A Fire Soul Great Emperor who hated outsiders said regretfully. Although this trip's losses are not light, it's fortunate that we brought back Holy Maiden Chu Lai. If her memory really has the stone seat coordinates sealed, our Fire Soul race will be closer to breaking out of the seal. Compared to this matter, these losses are insignificant. Another Fire Soul Great Emperor said. When the stone seat coordinates was mentioned, the few Fire Soul Great Emperors became spirited. However, Mengzhen wanted to say something but hesitated. Hee, Great Emperors, don't be anxious. With the seal of 2 realms, killing that trouble will only take a moment. There's no need to be anxious. The key is that once that trouble dies, we have to discuss how to deal with Chu Lai Duolan. According to the previous agreement, the Tri-Flames Great Emperor and your Fire Soul Great Emperor will each take half of the stone seat coordinates in Chu Lai Duolan's memory. However, I recently received a piece of information from a certain Saint Mountain Great Emperor. It's rather reliable. He said that the stone seat coordinates in Chu Lai Duolan's memory isn't 4, but 7. If that's the case, it seems that we can't divide it equally. As soon as Mengzhen's words fell, the 4 Fire Soul Great Emperors who were very shrewd couldn't help but be delighted. It's actually not 4, but 7. If that's the case, our Fire Soul race will be even closer to breaking out of the seal. However, if it's 7 coordinates, we have to change our previous agreement. 7 coordinates really can't be divided equally. Why don't our race take 4 and you Tri-Flames take 3? Then, our race will compensate you with some fire crystals. How about that? In my opinion, it's better for our race to take 5 and you Tri-Flames to take 2. Anyway, according to the agreement, you Tri-Flames can only take 2 coordinates. Mengzhen knew that the Fire Soul Great Emperors would demand an exorbitant price. He said unpleasantly, although the Fire Soul race's fire crystals are good, I Tri-Flames prefer to take more coordinates. It's impossible for us to take 2 out of 5, but we Tri-Flames can take 4. How dare you? A mere celestial supremacy dares to bargain with us. We're just being polite and calling you Demon Son. Do you really think you're on the same level as us? It's fine if there's no dispute, but since there is a dispute, you're not qualified to deal with it. Let us talk to you, Tri-Flames Celestial Emperor. Even if you, Tri-Flames Celestial Emperor, are here, you won't be able to get more coordinates than our Fire Soul race. At least we'll take 4 and you take 3. The Fire Soul Great Emperors said arrogantly. Facing the auras of the 4 emperors, Mengzhen showed no sign of fear. It would be fine if he was facing the true bodies of the 4 immortal emperors. However, they were just the illusory bodies of 4 immortal emperors without any cultivation base. Mengzhen had nothing to be afraid of. After letting out a cold smile, he suddenly spat out a ray of golden light and reached out to grab it. It was a golden token. The appearance of the token was very strange. It looked like a palm with 5 fingers spread out. One could even see the ever-changing palm lines on the token. Golden Flame Ancestral Token. How did you get this token? As soon as they saw the token, the 4 emperors sucked in a cold breath. Their faces were filled with shock. The arrogant attitude they had before was completely gone. When they looked at Meng Zhen again, their eyes were filled with fear. With this token, do I have the right to discuss this matter? Meng Zhen said proudly. I didn't expect little friend Meng to be one of the descendants of the flame ancestor. If that's the case, we'll do as you say. The Fire Soul Great Emperors looked at each other and sighed. They no longer had any objections to the matter regarding the coordinates. Meng Zhen became even more complacent. He glanced at the gigantic stone dragon behind him with eyes filled with killing intent. It's time to kill Ning Fan. After killing Ning Fan, I still have to search Duolan's memories. According to our agreement, I will read the coordinates of the empty space using the ancient Three Flames technique. As for the coordinates of the time and position, I will hand them over to your Fire Soul race to read them using your Fire Soul ancient technique. Now, the number of coordinates has increased to 7. I wonder if the materials you have prepared are enough to perform the technique. If not, it will be a little troublesome. Meng Zhen asked. Little friend Meng, don't worry. My race has already started preparing for this a few months ago. We have prepared a few extra sets of materials to perform the technique. It is completely enough. Let's just kill that troublesome fellow as soon as possible and search Duolan's memories. All right, Great Emperors, please step aside. I'm going to perform the Earth Void technique. Meng Zhen confidently transmitted his voice to the stone dragon and gave an order. Then, he formed a hand seal with both of his hands and performed a divine ability. The strange thing was that the stone dragon did not respond to Meng Zhen's order at all. It did not send Ning Fan into the two worlds sealing fire abyss. Why isn't this stone dragon listening to my order? Could it be that the time I tamed it is too short and it still wants to resist me? Meng Zhen thought it was strange and transmitted his voice to the stone dragon again. However, he still did not get any response from it. After a few times, Meng Zhen's expression suddenly turned extremely gloomy. How could he not know that something had happened to the stone dragon? You're really capable. Your cultivation base is obviously sealed, but you can still break free from the stone dragon's body. I have really underestimated you. As soon as Meng Zhen finished speaking, a figure suddenly appeared on the gigantic head of the stone dragon. It was none other than Ning Fan. This person is the troublesome fellow that you mentioned? The stomach of the stone dragon can trap an immortal king. This young man is just an immortal venerable, and he was even sealed by the punishment ring. However, he could actually break free from it. It seems like this young man must have some tricks that we don't know about. We can't underestimate him. The few Fire Soul Great Emperors were secretly shocked. However, something even more shocking had yet to happen. Ning Fan suddenly opened his mouth and gave an order. Use your Earth Void technique to swallow these people and throw them into the two worlds seal to burn them to death. He was actually giving an order to the stone dragon. What was strange was that the stone dragon that did not listen to Meng Zhen's order before was now obeying Ning Fan's order. Roar. The stone dragon let out a strange roar that sounded like both an ox and an elephant. At the moment when the roar resounded, Meng Zhen, the soul warriors behind him and the 4 Fire Soul Great Emperors did not even have the time to dodge. Their vision darkened and they felt dizzy. They were actually swallowed into the mouth of the stone dragon. This time, after the stone dragon swallowed them, it did not imprison them into its stomach. Instead, it spat Meng Zhen and the others into the blazing flames of the two-world seal. The 4 Fire Soul Immortal Emperors were just phantoms without any cultivation base. It was only natural for them to be swallowed. Almost at the same time they fell into the abyss of fire, they screamed and died. Of course, their true bodies would not suffer any damage. Even though the medicine souls of those soul warriors were strong, their physical bodies were really weak. As soon as they entered the area of the two-world seal, they were burned into ashes one after another. Their screams could be heard everywhere. As for Meng Zhen, he was already scared out of his wits. He could not understand why the stone dragon would betray them and why it would listen to Ning Fan's order. What frightened him even more was that he had already been sucked into the outer area of the seal of the two worlds by the stone dragon's earth-devouring technique in just the blink of an eye. Now, he was falling towards the depths of the seal of the two worlds. He could neither fly nor rise into the sky. He could only fall. With his current abilities, he could not resist the restrictive power of the seal of the two worlds. This was a seal that was laid down by a sage. In the dark green sea of fire, the temperature was so high that it almost burned Meng Zhen's body into charcoal in an instant. Even with the strength of his physical body, he could not resist the destructive power of the flames here. Why? I should have been the one who threw Ning Fan into the seal of the two worlds. Why did the situation turn around? Meng Zhen used his defensive abilities one after another. All he could do was try his best not to be burned to death by the blazing flames of the outer area of the seal. However, his body was still falling irrevocably. Originally, he had many magic treasures that he could use. However, to his despair, he realized that all of them had disappeared. Without a doubt, they must have been taken away by the stone dragon that was good at seizing treasures the moment he was swallowed. Damn it! Even the golden palm token of the flame ancestor has been taken away. I'm really finished this time. If I have the token, I might still have a chance to survive. Now, however, only death awaits me. After falling for an unknown period of time, just when Meng Zhen was about to lose consciousness due to the suffocating smoke, the sound of waves beating on the shore finally resounded from the deepest part of the seal of the two worlds. That was the area of the inner seal. In the middle of the sea of fire, there was a small hill that protruded from the surface of the sea. On top of the hill sat an old man whose eyes were filled with ferocity. He did not have any rationality or emotions. All he had was a pair of blood-red eyes filled with killing intent. That was the spirit of the seal that was formed by the sage's ominous intent in the inner seal. It was a small hill that was made up of skulls. If one takes a closer look, they would realize that there were many skulls of immortal emperors among the tens of thousands of skulls. Those who crossed the boundary, kill. Bang! Suddenly, a loud explosion resounded. Meng Zhen, who was insufferably arrogant, directly exploded into a mist of blood and died. He did not even have the time to see the appearance of the old man with the ominous intent. It was the ominous intent old man who killed Meng Zhen. His body seemed to have moved a little, but at the same time, it also seemed like he had not moved at all. He was still sitting on the small hill of skulls. At this moment, Meng Zhen, who had the cultivation base of an immortal venerable, died in his hands. He had no cultivation base, no rationality, no emotions, and he did not know how to think. He was just an ominous intent that had been left behind since ancient times. Just because he was left behind by a sage, even an immortal emperor would not be a match for him. So what if you're the stone flame devil son? You're just an ant. So this is the ominous intent of a sage. A single thought that has been passed down since ancient times can kill an immortal venerable. Ning Fan forcibly used the rain technique. When he saw the scene where the old man killed Meng Zhen in the seal of the two worlds, he was inwardly shocked. It was just the ominous intent of a sage. However, the feeling that it gave Ning Fan was no less powerful than Xiang Bozi. Under the 108 grasslands of Debay, there was a seal of the two worlds. Could it be that each of the seal of the two worlds was guarded by an ominous intent with terrifying strength? Those who enter the immortal intent realm, kill. As soon as the ominous intent old man's cold voice came out, raindrops that were hidden deep inside and outside the seal of the two worlds were forcefully forced out. Then, they exploded one after another, bringing with them a mist of blood. Ning Fan felt a sharp pain in his sea of consciousness. The trace of spirit sense that followed Meng Zhen into the seal of the two worlds had been destroyed. Fortunately, only a small amount of spirit sense had entered the seal of the two worlds. Thus, the damage was close to zero. Moved as if it had sensed Meng Zhen's death, the stone dragon let out a sorrowful cry. However, it still could not disobey Ning Fan's order. Ning Fan descended from the gigantic head of the stone dragon and landed near the entrance of the seal of the two worlds. He looked at the bottomless abyss of fire with a solemn expression. The ancient immortal venerables would die if they entered the seal of the two worlds. It was indeed not a lie. That Meng Zhen was not weak. However, he did not last long in the seal of the two worlds. that ominous intent old man with terrifying strength and the seal that the fire spirit race could not cross for generations. Fortunately, he had subdued the stone dragon at the critical moment. Otherwise, the one who would be spat into the seal of the two worlds and be burned to death would not be Mengjin but him. I didn't expect that such an incident would happen in the minor competition of the southern border. Moreover, I actually learned so many secrets of the great desolate continent by chance. Ning Fan's eyes turned dark. After Meng Zhen and the others escaped from the belly of the stone dragon, Ning Fan began to move around inside. First, he tried to break the wall of the stone dragon's belly to escape. However, he realized that the interior of the stone dragon's belly was impregnable. It was an excellent cage that was refined by Jin Guang with countless precious treasures. It was strong enough to defend against an immortal king realm attack. With his sealed cultivation base, he naturally could not break it. In that case, Ning Fan had to think of another way to escape. Even though his cultivation base was not strong enough, he still had many tricks up his sleeves. He managed to travel through the stone dragon's belly. Eventually, he arrived at the head of the stone dragon. After layers of solid defense, he arrived at the stone dragon's sea of consciousness. The stone dragon's belly had been specially refined. The place where its sea of consciousness was located was incomparably sturdy. Even a peak immortal king realm expert might not be able to damage its sea of consciousness. If it did not have such tricks, the stone dragon would not dare to casually swallow people. Unfortunately, the person it swallowed was Ning Fan. If there were no accidents, Ning Fan did not plan to use his trump card. However, the current situation was special. He did not know where Mengjin had gone, but he vaguely felt a sense of danger. Obviously, Mengjin was not lying when he said that he could kill him. If he does not get out of the stone dragon's belly as soon as possible, he would certainly be in great danger. Therefore, Ning Fan did not hold back at all. He directly took out his origin chi. This was the biggest trump card he could rely on now. Due to his cultivation base being restricted, he could not use the bottle of water drowning world. Since he was in the Supreme Pill Sacred region, he could not use Shadi's Jade Slip. If the origin chi were to explode, it would be enough to severely injure an immortal emperor. Thus, it was naturally not a problem for it to blow up the stone dragon's body. Now that he had reached a point where he had no choice but to use the origin chi, Ning Fan did not choose to blow up the stone dragon's belly to escape. If that was the case, he would not gain anything by using his trump card. Moreover, his 4 Emperor's archetypes were still in Mengjin's hands. Even if he managed to blow up the stone dragon and escape, he did not have the confidence to kill Mengjin and take back the 4 Emperor's archetypes under the restriction of his cultivation base. Ning Fan was not a person who liked to suffer losses. Thus, he maximized the effectiveness of the origin chi and chose to blow up the stone dragon's sea of consciousness instead of killing it. The biggest mistake of the stone dragon was that it should not have swallowed Ning Fan into its body. After all, it gave Ning Fan the chance to face the stone dragon's sea of consciousness directly. What was the sea of consciousness? It was where the spirit sense of a cultivator resided. If the sea of consciousness is destroyed, the cultivator would die. The same goes for beasts. If he was outside the stone dragon's body, Ning Fan would not be able to do what he did. However, now that he was inside the stone dragon's body and was facing the stone dragon's sea of consciousness, he directly did a crazy thing. He invaded the stone dragon's gigantic sea of consciousness and directly used an illusion technique on it. Ning Fan's illusion technique was very powerful. However, he rarely used it because he had too many trump cards. Now that he was facing the stone dragon's sea of consciousness, the terrifying power of his illusion technique was revealed. The stone dragon was directly controlled by Ning Fan using his illusion technique. Ning Fan even erased the various restrictions inside the stone dragon's sea of consciousness, reducing Mengjin's control over the stone dragon to 0. After that, he added the restrictions on himself. He actually disregarded the stone dragon's will and forcefully subdued it. The stone dragon was unwilling to betray its master. However, it was under Ning Fan's illusion technique. Its actions were not under its control at all. When it regained its senses, Meng Zhen was already killed by its own hands. How could the stone dragon not feel sad? It hated Ning Fan's ruthlessness to the core. He actually used an illusion technique to confuse it and kill its master. However, Ning Fan could not be blamed for this. It was Meng Zhen who attacked first. If Ning Fan did not counterattack, the one who died would not be Meng Zhen but him. Mood at the stone dragon's roar was filled with sorrow and determination. Moreover, it was filled with monstrous hatred. It could not wait to kill Ning Fan to avenge its master. It also wished that it could bang its head against the wall and commit suicide to apologize to its master. It desperately tried to resist the restrictions that Ning Fan planted in its sea of consciousness. However, it realized that it could not resist at all. Forcefully resisting would only result in death. It was not afraid of death. However, what made it even sadder was that it could not even die. It was under Ning Fan's illusion technique. If Ning Fan did not take the initiative to break it, it would not be able to break free from it. That illusion technique had deprived it of control over its body. It could not take revenge. It could not even die. After all, it was an illusion technique that Ning Fan directly planted in its sea of consciousness. Mu, be quiet. Ning Fan ordered with a cold voice. The stone dragon could not roar anymore. Its sea of consciousness became chaotic again and it submitted to Ning Fan blankly. Ning Fan sighed. This stone dragon was really loyal. Unfortunately, he could not make use of it. With a flip of his hand, a pine sapling, a golden palm token and a storage pouch appeared in his hand. The pine sapling was the Luohan pine of the four emperors. The golden palm token seemed to be called the Flame Ancestor Golden Palm Token according to the conversation that Ning Fan had overheard when he escaped from the Sea of Consciousness. Moreover, it seemed to have a powerful background as it could make the four immortal emperors of the fire spirit race fearful and force them to compromise. After taking a closer look, Ning Fan suddenly exclaimed softly. Then he smiled faintly. The ability of this token still needs to be verified. However, if I'm not mistaken, perhaps it is not a loss for me to use up my primordial qi. As for the storage pouch, it was the storage pouch of Devil Son Meng Zhen. There were not too many good items in it. Ning Fan just nodded his head slightly. There was nothing that caught his fancy. Ning Fan kept his spoils of war and turned his head to look at the stone dragon. Then he suddenly said, "Whether you are willing or not, no matter how unwilling you are, from today onwards, you will become my slave. This is the cruelty of cultivation. From the moment you attack me, you must be prepared to bear the consequences." As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Fan did not care whether the stone dragon could hear his words or not. He directly flew back into the stone dragon's abdomen with a sway of his body. After giving another order, the stone dragon used its earth escape technique in a daze and moved underground. Gradually, it left the seal of two realms. Even though Ning Fan had mentioned such an unforeseen event, he was still concerned about the result of the minor competition in the southern border. Now, he naturally wanted to return to the surface to check on the situation. After all, he had killed so many flame souls of broken sense. Just by looking at the points on his dominion plate, it had already reached a terrifying 77,000 points. If there are no accidents, he should be able to get the first place in the minor competition in the southern border. After getting the first place in the southern border, it would be the second round of the mausoleum seizing competition, the competition in the middle state. When he heads to the middle state, he would first need to find Ouyang Nuan and Zhang Yu of course. Before that, Ning Fan still needed to break through to the mid-shedding void realm first. He was still suppressing the sudden heart tribulation of the mid-shedding void realm. Inside the stone dragon's abdomen, Ning Fan had returned. The surviving cultivators of the southern border began to cheer excitedly. They actually escaped from death and managed to keep their lives from the hands of the Stone Flame Devil Son and the Hundredly Stone Dragon. This was really unbelievable. No one was willing to die. The reason why these cultivators of the southern border would rather die than surrender to Devil Son Meng Zhen was because of their moral integrity. If they could survive, of course, it would be even better. It's all thanks to Lord Ning's help that we managed to escape from the hands of Devil Son Meng Zhen. From now on, this lowly one's life belongs to Lord Ning. Even though you are an external cultivator, you are the benefactor of our water wolf tribe. Please accept our respect. From now on, if benefactor needs any help, we will die 10,000 times without hesitation. These stubborn and low-intelligence cultivators of the southern border said that they would die 10,000 times for Ningfan, and they would really do it. They did not know how to lie or be courteous. Those who knew how to lie had already been killed by Mengzhen disdainfully when they first defected to the enemy. Towards their gratitude, Ningfan just casually responded and did not take it to heart. After all, he did not intend to save most of them. The reason why they were still alive could only be said to be because they were lucky. At first, he only wanted to save the cultivators of the Pagoda Wood tribe and the Evil Goat tribe. Master, you're too amazing. You actually killed the devil son of Stone Flame. You actually subdued 100 Li Stone Dragon. You actually… Xin Yuchun, the dumbass, was talking about Ningfan's achievements in detail. Ningfan was not a person who liked to listen to flattery. However, when there was really a dumbass who kept praising him and all of his words were sincere, he could not help but reveal a smile despite his usual coldness. A helpless smile. This dumbass admiration towards him seemed to have deepened. However, he really did not plan to take him as a disciple. Of course, compared to Xin Yuchun, Ningfan was more concerned about Duo Lan. It was not because he was concerned about him. Instead, it was because of some words that he had eavesdropped on him. What were the coordinates of the stone seat? Something that could make the Three Flames and the Fire Spirit clan pay so much attention to it and make the immortal emperor of the sacred mountain collude with the enemy and send the information to Shi Yen to plot against Duo Lan must not be something simple. According to what Meng Zhen and the others said, there were 7 coordinates of the stone seat sealed in Duo Lan's memory. However, Ningfan had clearly searched through Duo Lan's memory before, but why did he not find any coordinates? He remembered that Mengzhen seemed to have mentioned different ways to obtain the space coordinates and the time coordinates. Perhaps the so-called coordinates could only be seen from Duo Lan's memory using special methods. Regarding this incident, you should have something to tell me, right? Since there are too many people here, I won't ask too many questions. When we return to the southern border, I hope to hear your honest answer. Ningfan transmitted his voice to Duo Lan meaningfully. Duo Lan bit her lips with some hesitation. In the end, she nodded silently. This scene was seen by some of the cultivators of the southern border. Naturally, they could not hear Ningfan's voice transmission. They could only see Ningfan and Duo Lan exchanging glances. Thus, these foolish cultivators of the southern border immediately thought that they were smart. There's no doubt that Lord Ning has an affair with the mausoleum guardian of the sacred mountain. Xin Yuchun, who originally did not have much interest in Duo Lan, began to call Duo Lan his mistress foolishly, making Ningfan speechless. Urgent report from the Middle State. Fire Soul insurrection has occurred in the southern border. The casualties are still unknown. The situation is urgent. On the celestial capital peak, only the celestial capital emperor was dealing with this matter. The other immortal emperors had already left. The insurrection of the Fire Soul insurrection was definitely not a trivial matter. However, it only happened in a small place like the southern border. It was enough to alarm one immortal emperor, and not all the other immortal emperors would come to deal with this matter. After all, it was just the insurrection of a group of broken sense Fire Soul insurrection. The celestial capital emperor was sitting on a Buddhist lotus, holding a string of prayer beads. Suddenly, his slightly narrowed eyes opened. He had already sent people to the southern border to investigate and provide aid. This time, the southern border would definitely suffer a great loss. However, to the weak southern border, it might not be a bad thing to have such a bloody baptism. Tribes had their own benefits. The risk of group cultivation was low and the environment was safe. However, there were also disadvantages. Most of them did not have enough understanding of the cruelty of cultivation and lacked the experience of bloody battles. Have you found out? What's the purpose behind the insurrection of the Fire Soul insurrection in the southern border? You should know that every time the Fire Soul insurrection occurs, the price that the Fire Soul race has to pay is definitely not small. There must be a conspiracy behind this matter. However, I don't know if the insurrection this time is purely an act of the Fire Soul race or if the Tri-Flames are mixed in. The celestial capital emperor's voice was very cold. Although the matter in the southern border was urgent, it was just that. He would not personally go to the southern border for such a small matter. As for the insurrection in the southern border, we have not received any report yet. However, the results of the martial test in the grasslands have been released. After the results of the written test and the martial test, the ranking of the tribes in the grasslands has also been released. Does the emperor want to have a look? A celestial capital sex disciple with the cultivation of immortal supremacy suddenly reported. Alright, we might as well wait and see the results of the first round of the mausoleum seizing. After this old man has a look, I will send a copy to the other 4 emperors. The celestial capital emperor nodded. To the immortal emperors, the insurrection in the southern border was just a small matter. Naturally, they would not spend all their attention on this matter. As for the 100 Flowers Great Emperor, will she also send a copy? The celestial supremacy's disciple asked carefully. A strange smile flashed across the celestial capital emperor's eyes as he answered. As for whether she is willing to have a look at it or not, it's not something I can control. The celestial capital emperor's eyes fell on the scroll in his hand. He browsed through the results of the tribes in the grasslands. With his intelligence, the results of most of the tribes were within his expectations. Thus, he was not too surprised. All of a sudden, the celestial capital emperor exclaimed softly. His eyes fell on the column at the end of the scroll which was about the southern border. Oh, didn't the insurrection happen in the southern border? Why can this Towerwood tribe still obtain so many results? Could it be that they are profiting from the chaos? The Towerwood tribe, 77,000 points. They were fully deserving of being the number 1 tribe in the southern border. They were 60,000 points higher than the Wind Summoning tribe, which was ranked 2nd. The emperor might not know this, but the Towerwood tribe's overall results are not that high. These 77,000 points were obtained by one person. It was none other than Ning Fan, the external cultivator invited by Towerwood. He killed 71 flame soul fragments with his own strength. That is why the Towerwood tribe obtained such a shocking result. I suppose he must have killed them in the chaos. With this person around, the anxiety of the southern border has been alleviated. Oh, he killed 71 flame soul fragments with his own strength. Even though this person is an ancient immortal venerate, he should have been sealed by the punishment ring. Could it be that he has destroyed the ring? The celestial capital emperor's expression immediately turned cold. If this external cultivator really dares to destroy the ring, he must be killed regardless of whether he has contributed to the peace of the southern border or not. In reply to the emperor, there is no news about the destruction of the punishment ring in the punishment temple. I suppose this person did not destroy the ring. If that is the case, forget it. This person is able to achieve such a great achievement when his cultivation base is limited. He is really a good seedling. Unfortunately, he is an external cultivator. The celestial capital emperor's eyes flashed with a scheming light. No one knew what he was thinking about. His disciples did not dare to disturb him. Report. The whole story of this incident has been investigated. Please have a look, Emperor. Suddenly, an immortal King Realm disciple entered from the outside and handed a secret report to the celestial capital emperor. The celestial capital emperor looked at the first few lines of the report and immediately felt cold. As expected, it is San Yan's doing. Stone Flame Devil Sun Mengzhen. I didn't think that Stone Flame would actually send out the holder of the Golden Flame Ancestral Token. What a big move. Are they after Chu Lai Duolon? It seems like the information I received is not groundless. The celestial capital emperor continued to read and his expression suddenly became serious. When he saw the last few lines, the celestial capital emperor suddenly stood up. His face was filled with shock and he could not control himself. The successor of the Golden Palm Token was actually killed. Could it be that an immortal emperor made a move? Otherwise, who could surpass the power of the flame ancestral token and kill this person. Others might not know, but as the person with the highest authority in the middle state, how could he not know Meng Zhen's other terrifying identity? Unfortunately, the people below were unable to investigate the details clearly. They could only obtain fragmented information from the survivors who returned to the southern border. Report. The latest news from the southern border has arrived. Please have a look, Emperor. The celestial capital Emperor lost his composure. He suddenly opened the scroll and his actions were rather urgent. The scroll contained the answer that he was eager to know at this moment. However, this answer was something that he could not believe no matter what. It made him suck in a breath of cold air. Emperor, the one who killed the stone flame devil son is Ning Fan, an external cultivator. How could this be possible? A mere immortal venerable external cultivator who had his cultivation base sealed actually managed to kill the stone flame devil son. That was not an ordinary devil son. He was the holder of the golden palm token. Even if the celestial capital emperor were to take action, he did not have full confidence in killing Meng Zhen. How did Ning Fan do it? Chapter 10:13. The chaos in the southern border came and went quickly. Because the fire souls did not spread across the entire grassland, the losses of the riot were only limited to the wind-summoning tribe and the participants and spectators of the minor competition in the southern border. The biggest victim was undoubtedly the wind-summoning tribe. Not only did they lose their guardian corpse devil, but they also lost nearly 100,000 members in the riot. To the wind-summoning tribe, which did not have many members, they could no longer maintain their original position as the number one tribe in the southern border. The other tribes had different degrees of casualties. Those who could participate in the minor competition in the southern border were the elites of each tribe. If they died or got injured, the strength of each tribe would naturally suffer a great loss. The Evil Goat tribe was one of the few large tribes which suffered lesser losses. This made the stubborn old members of the tribe feel very fortunate. Their attitude towards Xinyu Chun and the Tamu tribe instantly became much better. As for the Tamu tribe, it was fully deserving of being the biggest winner in this riot. In the end, the crown of the number one tribe in the southern border still fell on the Tamu tribe, which had been at the bottom for 10,000 years because of Ning Fan's outstanding performance. Unfortunately, due to the riot, the process of the minor competition in the southern border was not complete. According to the process, after the results of the written and combat tests were collected, the tribe that obtained the first place would have to receive rewards. The rewards they would receive would be 30% of the fire crystals obtained by each tribe in the combat test. The sacred envoy corpse devil who was in charge of the minor competition in the southern border had already passed away. Naturally, no one would be in charge of the rewards. 6 days after the riot, a new person in charge came to the southern border to deal with the rewards of the Tamu tribe. The first thing he needed to do was to visit each tribe and take away 30% of the fire crystals obtained by each tribe in the combat test. Then he would give all the fire crystals to the Tamu tribe. The person in charge this time was not Corpse Devil of the Sacred Mountain but one of the disciples of the Heaven Capital Emperor of the Middle State. He had the cultivation base of an eternal tribulation. His name was Ku Jing. He was a seemingly honest Buddhist cultivator. Usually, he could still talk eloquently when discussing scriptures and Buddhism. However, when dealing with people, he would be awkward with his words and actions. Ku Jing felt a slight headache. He did not like to deal with mundane affairs. However, this time, the Heaven Capital Emperor had personally asked him to handle this matter. Naturally, he could not reject him. Venerated Sovereign has given an order. The reward for this trip is not a big deal. Handing the invitation card of the ancient Buddha assembly to that external cultivator, Ning Fan, is the important matter at hand. This is really unbelievable. The ancient Buddha assembly has never allowed external cultivators to participate. Even for people from the Saint Mountain, not everyone is qualified to participate. I didn't think that the Arch-Venerate would actually make an exception for an external cultivator. It seems like he values this person a lot. As soon as she thought of how much the heaven capital valued Ning Fan, Si Jing could not help but put away her racial discrimination towards foreign cultivators. Before meeting him in person, she already had respect for him. With Si Jing's immortal venerable cultivation base, there was naturally no tribe that dared to refuse when she personally went to the various southern border tribes to ask for fire crystals. 30% of the fire crystals was not a small amount. It was a very important resource for raising the cultivation of the fire elementalists in the headquarters. According to Wu Jing's experience, most of the tribes would do some tricks. The number of fire crystals handed over would match the results of the Wushu test on the surface, but they would secretly substitute inferior fire crystals with inferior quality fire crystals. As a result, the fire crystals awarded to the first tribe were often shoddy items, and the person in charge would often turn a blind eye to this. This was the old practice. However, this time, Si Jing's horizons were greatly broadened. The Si Soul tribe should hand over 26 fire crystals. Among them, 22 true transference fire crystals and 4 void abandonment fire crystals should be handed over. There were 214 true transference fire crystals. Among them, there were 44 void abandonment fire crystals. All of the true transference fire crystals were also of excellent quality. The Evil Goat tribe should hand over 19 fire crystals, but they handed over 230 void abandonment fire crystals. Among them, there were 37 void abandonment fire crystals, and one of them was obviously not the thought fragment fire crystal that they obtained in the Wushu test. The Water Wolf tribe, the Flying Sand tribe. Each of the tribes in the southern border had actually handed over more fire crystals than they should have. Moreover, it was not just by a little. Even the Wind Summoning tribe and the White Ghost tribe, who had always been at odds with the Tamu tribe, had also handed over more fire crystals than they should have. The number of cultivators that Ning Fan saved this time was not many. However, it almost covered all the tribes in the southern border. Thus, he actually gained the favor of the entire southern border. As for those who originally hated the Tamu tribe, many of them died when they betrayed the tribe. Even though some of them did not die, they naturally spared no effort to hand over more fire crystals this time because they had received Ning Fan's kindness of saving their lives. They did not even hesitate to use the treasuries of each tribe just to repay Ning Fan's kindness. I didn't expect that the matter of receiving the fire crystals would actually be so easy. Si Jing sighed with emotion. Then, he went to the Tamu tribe with the extra fire crystals. The Tamu tribe naturally did not dare to neglect a venerated immortal like Si Jing. Almost all of them welcomed her with open arms. After that, they received Si Jing's fire crystals and officially obtained the glory of being the #1 tribe in the southern border. Each of the people of the Tamu tribe was filled with joy. They lit bonfires and celebrated throughout the night. However, Si Jing did not see Ning Fan among these people who were celebrating. "Why didn't I see the external cultivator that you invited?" Si Jing's voice was calm. However, when it fell into the ears of the leader of the Tamu tribe, Tagli, it carried a sense of supreme majesty. In reply to High Envoy, Lord Ning is currently in secluded cultivation. He seems to be breaking through some kind of bottleneck. Thus, he did not come here. Do you need me to send a message to Lord Ning and ask him to come and meet High Envoy? Even though he said that, the hint of reluctance hidden deep in Tagli's eyes still betrayed his true thoughts. He did not want to disturb Ning Fan's secluded cultivation. Ning Fan was the benefactor of the Tamu tribe, the savior of the southern border and the most distinguished guest in the grassland. Ning Fan's secluded cultivation was more important than anything else. He was not willing to let this High Envoy disturb Ning Fan's cultivation. "It's all right. There's no need to disturb this person. I will just wait here for a few days. I think this person will naturally come out of seclusion before the second round of the mausoleum seizing begins." Si Jing still had the task that the heaven capital gave him. Thus, he had no choice but to take the invitation and stay in the Tamu tribe temporarily while waiting for Ning Fan to come out of seclusion. This time, Ning Fan had chosen the forbidden area of the Tamu tribe, the Tamu medicinal pond. It was the place with the highest amount of spiritual qi in the Tamu tribe. It was also the most suitable place to break through bottlenecks. The reason why Ning Fan chose this place for secluded cultivation was naturally to face the second heart tribulation that suddenly came. Although it was called a medicinal pond, it was just a square pond that was 1,000 chi square in size. At the center of the pond was a Buddha statue that was enshrined in the water. The statue was still dressed like the medicine Buddha. The surface of the medicinal pond was covered with a formation that gathered the medicinal chi from all directions. The medicinal chi would liquefy and form the water in the pond. The water in the pond had the miraculous effect of nourishing the medicine soul. Every generation of the Tamu tribe would temper their medicine soul in this place. As time passed by, some medicinal quintessence would often be formed in the medicinal pond. It would accumulate at the bottom of the pond and have the miraculous effect of improving the power of one's medicine soul. The longer the medicinal quintessence was deposited, the longer the effect would be. Generally speaking, the people of the Tamu tribe would take out the medicinal quintessence every 1,000 years for the experts in the tribe to consume. Most of the other tribes also had medicinal ponds. Basically, they would also take out the medicinal quintessence once every 1,000 years. When Ning Fan entered the medicinal pond, the medicinal quintessence that had accumulated at the bottom of the pond that had reached 1,000 years old had already been taken away. There were only some medicinal quintessences that were hundreds of years old left. These medicinal quintessences that were hundreds of years old were of great help to the cultivation of a sixth revolution pill master's medicine soul. However, to a high-grade seventh revolution pill master like Ning Fan, the effect was not great. Ning Fan sat in the medicinal pond with his clothes still on. He closed his eyes and meditated without uttering a single word. Other than occasionally consuming medicine soul stones, he did not open his eyes at all. He had been like this for 6 days already. Outside the medicinal pond, Duo Lan, Xinyu Chun and many of the people of the Tamu tribe were waiting for Ning Fan to come out of his seclusion so that they could participate in the celebration of the Tamu tribe. Outsiders only knew that Ning Fan was breaking through a small bottleneck of the eternal immortal venerated realm. However, they did not know that Ning Fan was just breaking through the bottleneck of the renunciation void realm. Above the medicinal pond, the illusory shadows of Ning Fan's 4 true bridges had already appeared. Under the true bridges was the murmuring river water. The reflections reflected on the surface of the water reflected Ning Fan's thoughts that were constantly changing. According to Ning Fan's personal opinion, his first heart tribulation should be about the word promise. As for his second heart tribulation, it seemed to be about the word kindness. The descent of the renunciation void tribulation could only be chanced upon and not sought. If one only goes into seclusion to cultivate diligently, one would not be able to experience the heart tribulation even after millions of years. If one goes out to travel, it might happen as soon as the opportunity arrives. Also, it might not happen until the opportunity arrives. Ning Fan could be considered to be very lucky. Because of Xinyu Chun's sorrowful and crazy roar, his heart was actually touched as if it resonated with him. Then, it directly triggered the second heart tribulation. That roar contained Xinyu Chun's sincere feelings towards his mother. It contained longing and sorrow. After returning to the surface, Ning Fan specially asked about Xinyu Chun's past before going into seclusion. He learned about some of Xinyu Chun's stories and also learned about the heart-wrenching pain of that roar. When Xinyu Chun was young, he was kidnapped by Shi Yan. His mother risked her life to save him. In the end, she died under Shi Yan's volcano divine ability. The young Xinyu Chun stood outside the volcano and watched his mother being suppressed to death bit by bit. However, he was powerless to save her. On that day, Xinyu Chun realized how weak he was. On that day, Xinyu Chun swore that he would definitely walk out of the southern border in this lifetime and live a life stronger than anyone else. Deep in his bones, Xinyu Chun had a monstrous hatred towards the 3 flames. If his cultivation base is strong enough in the future, he would certainly seek revenge on the 3 flames. Ning Fan saw his own shadow in Xinyu Chun. As for Xinyu Chun's mother, it reminded Ning Fan of his own mother. His mother had also risked everything to save him. However, unlike Xinyu Chun, Ning Fan's mother was still alive in the rain world. However, he did not know if his mother's stone statue had been petrified or not. He was a little homesick. As he thought of his mother, Ning Fan's heart tribulation came faster and faster. For 6 whole days, no matter how his reflection in the water of the True Bridge River changed, it was still the memories of him and his mother. There were fake memories of him living in the countryside with his mother in the Purple Battle illusory realm. There were pale memories of his mother painting the cocoon with her blood. There were also memories of him sitting outside the golden house and not daring to enter the house. There were also memories of him not daring to look at his mother's cold stone statue. Life in this world is like a white steed flashing past a crevice. What is the purpose of us cultivators? When we reach the end of our cultivation, we would usually be guarding a world that is getting stranger by the day. We would be guarding those fellow Taoists who have died forever and the promise that they made to live forever together. Occasionally, we would look through our old belongings and find the love letters that we wrote to our senior sister when we were young. When we passed by a market, we would suddenly remember that we did not have the time to buy the things that we promised our senior brother in the past. When we look back at our lives, we realize that the people who had been with us for a long time were no longer around. That kind of feeling was so lonely. As for those who could not go with us, they had already turned into a pile of yellow soil. There were too few stories of a man achieving the Tao and his companions ascending to the heavens. Most of the cultivators who were born as mortals had already died many years ago when they achieved the immortal Tao. Some of them had already cut the so-called parents' sword of wisdom out of their hearts when they were at the core formation realm or the spirit-severing mortal realm. However, everything in this world has its causes and effects. It's fine if you don't have the time to repay your parents' kindness. If you also cut off the memories and feelings of your parents, I'm afraid that it would be even more difficult for you to repay the karma. Such cultivators would never be able to achieve true perfection in their cultivation no matter what. Cutting off the emotions during the core formation realm is wrong. Spirit-severing mortal realm is wrong. Forgetting is also wrong. After 6 days, Ning Fan suddenly opened his eyes. Green light flashed in his eyes. He had actually seen through the flaws of the current cultivation system from the perspective of perfection. I can't forget. How can I forget? In this world, not all scars need to be healed. There are also some that need to be kept and remembered forever. In the past, he was just unwilling to go against his Tao heart during the heart tribulation because of his stubbornness. Now, however, he had directly seen through the flaws of the heart-severing realm. During the first heart tribulation, he still could not understand it so much. However, during the second heart tribulation, he clearly felt that the heart-severing realm was not as simple as it seemed. There was even a vague feeling that he couldn't put into words. It made him vaguely feel that the first heart tribulation of renunciation wasn't as simple as the word promise, and the second heart tribulation wasn't as simple as the word kindness. The heart tribulation was not only the heaviest obsession of the heart-severing realm cultivators. The heart tribulation seemed to be a major turning point in the change of a cultivator's Tao heart. Previously, Ning Fan had some doubts about why the first scene of his first heart tribulation would start from the memory related to Hu Fengzi. That person could not be considered as an important figure in his path of cultivation, let alone in the rain world. However, when he thought about it now, he realized that this person had a profound influence on Ning Fan. It was when his Tao heart changed for the first time. When Ning Fan first entered the Devil Tao, he was just an ignorant young man who only wanted to take revenge. What he saw was only the dark side of the path of cultivation. However, until he met Hu Fengzi, Ning Fan truly realized that there were also some positive things on the path of cultivation. There were also cultivators who persevered bitterly, and there were also things that were more important than their lives that were worth protecting. Perhaps from that day onwards, Ning Fan was not just a young man who wanted to take revenge but a true cultivator. It could be considered as the first change of Ning Fan's Tao heart on the path of cultivation. As for his mother's memory, it started from the Purple Do illusory realm. Immortal Sovereign Zido had given Ning Fan an illusory memory where he lived an ordinary life with his mother. It was also from that moment onwards that Ning Fan realized that he was not just a devil cultivator but also an ordinary person. He ascended the mountain as an immortal and descended the mountain as a human. If it weren't for immortal sovereign Zido's guidance, perhaps Ning Fan would have sunk deep into the devil Dao and would not be able to extricate himself from it. There would be no smile on his face but only cold killing intent. It could be said that during this period of time, Ning Fan had found a balance between the devil Dao and the human heart. This could be considered as the second change in Ning Fan's Dao heart on his path of cultivation. 2 heart tribulations. If we only use promise and grace to understand it, it would be a little superficial. Rather than calling it a heart tribulation, it would be better to say that every time my heart changes. It's just that my Dao heart doesn't seem to have changed greatly from now on, and it's already set in stone. If I use a change of heart to understand it, then I wonder what kind of change of heart the 3rd and 4th tribulation of renunciation will bring. Liang was able to trigger my tribulation of renunciation as well, so one of the tribulations is definitely related to her. However, Liang and I aren't just tied together in this lifetime, we're also tied together in our previous lifetimes. Could it be that my tribulation of renunciation doesn't just happen in this lifetime, but also in my previous lifetimes? If that's the case, then perhaps I might have had a change of heart in my previous lifetimes. Because of the comparison of the 2nd heart tribulation, Ning Fan had a new guess about the pattern of his heart tribulation. His heart tribulation was originally different from ordinary people. Thus, he naturally needed to figure it out himself in order to find the correct path. From the 7th day onwards, other illusions began to appear under the true bridge. Some of them were the kindness of the old devil while others were the kindness of others. Sure enough, they all corresponded to the word grace. On the 11th day, the illusions stopped. Ning Fan knew that the breakthrough of his tribulation of renunciation had reached the most crucial moment. He still remembered that during his first heart tribulation, there was a terrifying withered palm that came at him and he was surrounded by perils. According to Ning Fan's guess, the 2nd heart tribulation should not have such a change. However, he could not be too sure about it. Thus, he still made some preparations. Once the withered palm attacks him again, he would not just wait helplessly for death. Fortunately, there was no attack from the withered palm during his 2nd heart tribulation. The process was very smooth. Ning Fan's ancient god and ancient demon cultivation base broke through to the mid-shedding void realm one after another. It would take a lot of time to stabilize his cultivation base. Unfortunately, Ning Fan was located in the Supreme Pill Sacred region and could not open the profound Yin world. Thus, he could not use the time tower inside to stabilize his cultivation base for the time being. Thus, he could only stabilize his cultivation base slightly to prevent it from falling. His divine and demon chi, however, seemed to be a little superficial and lacked solidification. Ning Fan carefully examined his own body. The increase in the cultivation base of his ancient god and ancient demon did not increase the total strength of his 4 elements by much. After all, his ancient devil chi and blood chi were at a higher cultivation base. However, after the increase in his divine and demon cultivation base, Ning Fan could still clearly feel that the balance of the 4 elements in his body had increased significantly. It was just like the shortcoming of a wooden bucket. When the shortcoming of a bucket was improved, the amount of water in the bucket would naturally increase accordingly. My overall strength did not increase by much. However, when I use different types of energy to display my abilities, the consumption of magic power has obviously decreased and the destructive power of my abilities has also increased. After all, when I display my abilities in the past, most of my magic power is wasted on maintaining the balance of my power. If my divine and demon cultivation base can continue to increase, the balance of the 4 elements in my body will also increase. Ning Fan exhaled a mouthful of murky chi and walked out of the medicinal pool. He circulated his magic power and evaporated the water on his body. He did not immediately walk out of the formation of the medicinal pool. Instead, he sat on a large rock at the side of the pool and took out the golden flame ancestral flame token that he took from Meng Zhen. He held it in his hand and carefully rubbed it. After rubbing it 7 times, a ray of golden light suddenly flew out from the golden token and turned into a golden mist giant that only had half of its body left in midair. The aura force of the giant was extremely strong. It gave Ningfan a feeling that it was not much weaker than the ominous sense formation spirit of the Seal of Two Realms. However, the giant's power seemed to be limited. Once its power is exhausted, it seemed like it would disappear. I am the guardian spirit of the Golden Palm Token. I can fulfill 3 wishes of the bearer of the token within my capabilities. The previous owner of this token, Meng Zhen, has already used the first and second wishes. You are the new owner of this token. You can order me to fulfill the last wish of this token for you. After the 3 wishes are fulfilled, this token will self-destruct. Ningfan's eyes sparkled. When he first obtained this token, he could already feel that there was an unimaginably massive power within the token that expressed its will to submit to him. This power was so massive that it gave Ningfan an illusion that if he wanted to, he could even directly kill an immortal emperor with this power. One has to know that even though the origin energy was powerful, it only had the possibility of heavily injuring an immortal emperor. However, the power contained within this token was far greater than a single strand of origin energy. Of course, Ningfan could also vaguely sense that this golden flame ancestral token was not only useful for killing. It could also be used for many other purposes. Before he went into seclusion, he inquired about the golden palm token from Dolan and was deeply shocked. The so-called Flame Ancestor Golden Palm token was the status symbol of the Flame Ancestor's successor. Only an extremely small number of heaven-gifted 3 flame cultivators could obtain this token when they passed the Flame Ancestor's trial. The Ancestor of Flame was the name of the evil corpse that was slashed by the sage. He was the ancestor of all 3 flame cultivators. Legend has it that although the Flame Ancestor was the evil corpse of a sage, his cultivation level had not reached the 3rd step. However, with his ancient cultivation level, he had severely injured a sage, causing the sage to fall several reincarnations ahead of time. This was enough to show his power. Legend has it that the Flame Ancestor had a unique comprehension towards creation and destruction. The Flame Ancestor Golden Palm token he created could fulfill 3 wishes of anyone who held it. Of course, it had to be within the scope of the Golden Palm token's ability. He could ask the Golden Palm token to raise his cultivation. He could ask for magic treasures, pills, and cultivation methods from the Golden Palm token. He could also ask the Golden Palm token to kill someone for him. It was said that in ancient times, there was a Skyflame Devil Son who made a wish and eventually killed an 8 Tribulation immortal emperor of the Holy Mountain. It caused a sensation for a period of time. As long as Ningfan made a wish, the guardian spirit of the Golden Palm token could kill even an immortal emperor in front of him. Of course, it was not certain whether he could kill the immortal emperor or not. After all, as time passed, the power of the Golden Palm token would be eroded bit by bit. It was no longer as powerful as it used to be. To Ningfan, this Flame Ancestor Golden Palm token was much stronger than his sure qi to protect himself. He believed that as long as he had this token, even the immortal emperors of the despicable clan would not dare to do anything to him. At the same time, Ningfan was secretly relieved. If Meng Zhen used the Golden Palm token to kill him right from the beginning, it would certainly bring him great danger. Unfortunately, Meng Zhen was reluctant to use it. He wanted to kill Ningfan with the power of the Seal of the Two Realms. In the end, Ningfan reversed the situation by tossing him into the Seal of the Two Realms and burning him to death. Thus, the token became Ningfan's advantage. If I make a wish to upgrade my 12 Darkness True Flame to Innate True Flame, can you fulfill it too? Ningfan suddenly asked. Of course. Are you sure you want to fulfill this wish? The giant spirit of the Golden Palm token asked in a stiff tone. Is there any drawback to this kind of upgrade? Ningfan asked again. It will only damage my foundation. The giant spirit of the Golden Palm token answered. The Golden Palm token could increase one's cultivation base and upgrade one's abilities. However, it would be forcefully increased through a method similar to enlightenment. It would greatly damage one's foundation. If the golden palm token is used to upgrade the flame might be stuck at the same level for the rest of its life. The same goes for one's cultivation base. As a result, Ning Fan's originally burning heart cooled down a lot. He said regretfully, "If the prerequisite is to damage my foundation, then I will forget about this matter." After thinking for a while, he continued, "If I make a wish to upgrade my true flame to the level of a saint flame, can you fulfill it?" The reason he asked this question was to find out the limit of the golden palm token's ability. "I can't. At most, I can help you upgrade your flame to the mid-grade innate true flame." The giant spirit of the golden palm token answered indifferently, "If I make a wish to upgrade my ancient god, demon and devil cultivation base to the eternal immortal venerable realm, can I fulfill it?" "Indeed I can't. At most, I can only upgrade one of your cultivation bases to the zero tribulation immortal venerable realm. It will still damage your foundation. It was already considered an extremely terrifying upgrade. Unfortunately, the drawbacks were too great." Ning Fan thought for a while and asked again, "If I want to open my eyes and see the world that only the people of the true world can see, can you help me achieve this?" "This matter is way beyond my ability. If I ask you to kill someone, what's the highest cultivation base you can kill?" "This token has existed for too long. If it's at its peak, it can kill everything below the quasi-sage realm. Now, it can only kill a 6th tribulation immortal emperor realm cultivator. If the other party is good at defense and escaping, there's still a possibility of failure. That's not bad. In other words, if the other party is a 6th tribulation immortal emperor with slightly weaker abilities, or if the other party is careless, there's still a high chance that they can be killed. What a terrifying token. It can even kill an immortal emperor realm cultivator. Moreover, this token is not at its peak. If it's in ancient times, the scariness of this token is simply unimaginable." Ning Fan did not ask any further questions. The giant spirit of the golden palm token also bowed to him and returned to the token indifferently. There was no need for him to refine this token. Ning Fan directly swallowed it into his stomach and stored it in his dantian. He would not make the same mistake as Meng Zhen and let others take the token away. Ning Fan had yet to decide how to use this token. After thinking for a while, he decided to keep this token for the time being as a life-saving item when he travels the world. "Duo Lan, you can come in now." After doing all this, Ning Fan sent a voice transmission to Duo Lan, who was outside the formation of the medicinal pool, and opened a passage. Duo Lan took a deep breath and walked into the medicinal pool as if he had just made an important decision. After that, the formation was closed. The Tamu people outside immediately began to make a ruckus. Could it be that Lord Ning has already ended his seclusion? But why did he call Lord Duo Lan in alone? Just as I thought, Lord Ning and Lord Duo Lan are having an affair. Could it be that he wants to have sex in a place like the medicinal pool? That's really blasphemous to the medicine Buddha. A few hotheads wanted to remind Ning Fan that they were not allowed to have sex in the land of Buddha. Their actions immediately enraged Xin Yu Chun. "All of you, get lost. Get away from here. Don't disturb my master and master's wife." Xin Yu Chun regained his usual demeanor of a young thug. With a ferocious look, he chased the Tamu people away from the territory of the Tamu clan. He was a good disciple of the 24 filial exemplars. How could he allow others to disturb his master and master's wife? So what if this is the land of Buddha? Inside the medicinal pool, Ning Fan naturally could not have sex with Duo Lan. He was not in the mood for that. Compared to this matter, he was more concerned about the coordinates of the stone seat. "It's time for you to give me an explanation. What are the coordinates of the stone seat?" Ning Fan's eyes narrowed slightly, giving Duo Lan a huge sense of pressure. Duo Lan's small face turned slightly pale. She did not dare to lie to Ning Fan. The impression that Ning Fan gave her was just too cruel and ruthless. Once she lies, she did not know what kind of consequences she would face. Knowing that she could no longer keep this secret, Duo Lan knelt in front of Ning Fan. "Senior Ning, I can give you the coordinates of the stone seat. But please agree to a request of Duo Lan. Otherwise, even if you kill Duolon, you will only get a corpse. I have no interest in agreeing to your request. I'm also not determined to get the coordinates of the stone seat. I'm just a little curious. Why can't I see any information about the coordinates of the stone seat from your mind? Let me ask you again. What are the coordinates of the stone seat? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.